Morning light spreads across Hanseong Elite Academy, making the whole campus look expensive and untouchable. Students gather near the gate, comparing uniforms, shoes, and status before class even begins. A black car stops by the entrance, and Seo Jihan steps out with calm posture and effortless confidence. The whispers start immediately. Everyone knows his name before he even reaches the gate. Jihan walks through the hallway with quiet eyes, neat hair, and a uniform that looks sharper than everyone else's. A few girls lower their voices, saying he looks more like a celebrity than a student. Some boys pretend not to care, but one of them still checks the brand of Jihan's shoes. Jihan gives them a polite smile, while his real focus stays on the business plan inside his bag. On the results board, Seo Jihan's name is at the top again. The teachers praise his answers, saying they read like university-level research. Classmates stare in silence, caught between admiration, jealousy, and disbelief. Jihan only glances at the board once, as if first place is no longer worth celebrating. Inside the quiet meeting room, Jihan opens his laptop and presents his final business plan. His idea connects fashion, cosmetics, smart tools, and branding into one clean lifestyle company. The professors study each slide more seriously than they expected to. One professor speaks softly. "If this launches correctly, your name could spread outside Korea." After the meeting, Jihan walks alone through the courtyard, still carrying the weight of the presentation. His phone fills with messages from investors, suppliers, and design partners. Graduation is close, and his first company is almost ready to step into the world. For the first time that day, Jihan smiles for himself. "I'm almost there." Evening settles over the city as Jihan leaves school, reviewing the final presentation on his phone. Streetlights ripple across the wet road, still shining from the earlier rain. The pedestrian signal turns green, and the crowd begins to cross. Jihan steps forward, still thinking about launch schedules and marketing strategy. Screams tear through the intersection as a delivery truck swerves out of control. Jihan looks up and understands the danger before his body can move. The headlights swallow his vision, bright and merciless like white fire. His last thought is not fear. Not now. I was so close. Everything turns white. The road, the truck, the pain, and the city noise all disappear at once. Jihan opens his eyes inside a strange glowing space he has never seen before. A nervous old man sits behind a golden desk in the clouds, staring at Jihan's file. Oh no! Floating documents, golden doors, and glowing stamps fill the impossible office around him. The old man in divine robes tries to hide the file behind his back. Jihan narrows his eyes. "Why do you look guilty?" The old man sweats so badly that tiny clouds form above his head. There has been a small administrative mistake. Jihan snatches the glowing file from the desk before the old man can stop him. The file says Seo Jihan. Status, accidental death. Cause, divine processing error. He reads it once, then reads it again, hoping the words will somehow change. His calm expression finally breaks. "You killed me because of paperwork?" Jihan slams the file onto the desk so hard that the clouds tremble. "I was about to graduate, start a company, and become successful." The old man raises both hands and insists that mistakes can happen, even in divine management. Jihan points at him without blinking. "I want compensation. Full compensation." The old man offers him a new life in a magical world. Jihan crosses his arms. A fantasy world alone is not enough. The offer grows quickly: retained memories, enhanced senses, a growth-type mana core, inventory, and starter gear. Jihan thinks for a moment, then adds one final condition. "My good looks stay with me." The old man explains the new world: magic, monsters, adventurers, guilds, nobles, merchants, and kingdoms. Jihan listens not like a victim, but like a businessman hearing about an untouched market. Technology is weak there, and most people still depend on magic tools and manual labor. Jihan's eyes sharpen. No modern technology? Then this world is full of gaps. The old man mentions one locked skill that will awaken once Jihan gathers enough mana. On the glowing window, the skill name appears only as question marks. Jihan asks one practical question. Can it help me build a business empire? The old man laughs nervously. Probably more than you expect. A huge magic circle opens beneath Jihan's feet. The old man promises he will appear near a safe beginner town. Jihan points at him. Safe. Beginner. Town. Do not mess this up. The old man gives a confident thumbs up, then suddenly checks the wrong map. Wait. The word wait reaches Jihan a second too late, and suspicion flashes across his face. The magic circle activates before the old man can correct anything. Jihan falls through a tunnel of light, shouting back toward heaven. The old man chases the spell with a correction stamp, but the mistake is already gone. Jihan crashes into a thick pile of leaves and broken branches. Birds scatter, glowing insects flicker, and distant beasts howl between the trees. He sits up covered in leaves, sore in pride but strangely unharmed. He sees claw marks, bones, and huge trees blocking the sun. This is not a safe town. Jihan breathes hard, still angry enough to argue with heaven again. A monster roar echoes from deeper in the forest. He forces his breathing to slow because anger will not keep him alive. His mind turns the panic into numbers, risks, resources, and possible escape routes. A glowing status window appears, showing his new name, age, level, and unregistered class. The visible skills are basic sword instinct, enhanced senses, inventory, and one locked unknown ability. Jihan reads every line carefully, memorizing the terms like a contract. When he touches the inventory icon, a dark storage window opens in the air. Inside the inventory are travel clothes, boots, a coat, a water flask, 10 silver coins, and a steel sword. A small folded note rests beside the starter gear. Jihan opens it and finds only one word: sorry. He crushes the note without a change in expression. Then something rustles behind him. A small green goblin bursts from the bushes, gripping a rusty dagger. A red label appears above its head: Level 2 Forest Goblin. The goblin lunges from the side, aiming straight for Jihan's ribs. Before he can think, his hand pulls the sword from inventory in one smooth motion. The goblin's movements suddenly look slow in Jihan's eyes. His body shifts into a defensive stance as if it already knows what to do. Jihan steps forward and cuts once. The goblin falls instantly, and Jihan stares at it in disbelief. That was too easy. The goblin's body dissolves into faint particles of light. A small blue crystal remains on the ground. The system identifies it as a low-grade mana stone. Jihan picks it up and feels a warm pulse inside the crystal before sending it into inventory. Jihan looks at his hands, unsure what this new body can really do. He walks toward a large rock beside a tree. With one casual punch, he cracks the rock in half. Broken stone drops around his feet, and a slow smile appears on his face. Jihan sits on the broken rock and starts thinking through this world's rules. Monsters drop mana stones. Mana stones likely have value. Guilds may buy them. Magic exists here, but modern production, branding, and mass trade may not. To Jihan, the monster forest is no longer only a death zone. It is a resource field. 5 goblins step out from the shadows first. More follow until Jihan is surrounded on all sides. They are armed with knives, clubs, and crude bows, all carrying the same level 2 label. Jihan exhales slowly and tightens his grip on the sword. He avoids the first attack with a clean sidestep. Before the second goblin can swing, Jihan cuts it down. An arrow flies toward his shoulder, but he tilts away at the last instant. He throws a broken branch like a spear and knocks the archer down. The remaining goblins rush in together, desperate to overwhelm him. Jihan moves through them with sharp, efficient strikes. One by one, the monsters fall and dissolve into mana stones. When the fight ends, the forest goes quiet, and Jihan collects the stones with a satisfied smile. Jihan counts the mana stones inside his inventory. He does not know the market price yet, but quantity matters in any world. His first goal becomes clear: reach a town, learn the economy, and turn monster loot into capital. The locked skill icon flickers once, then fades before it can activate. Jihan follows sunlight and broken branches through the forest, marking his direction as he moves. After nearly an hour, he finds wagon tracks pressed into soft mud. Human footprints appear beside the tracks. For the first time since arriving, he sees a real path toward civilization. A wooden merchant wagon rolls down the road, pulled by 2 strong horned horses. The driver slows when he sees Jihan standing alone with a sword. Travelers peek from the wagon, suspicious of a young man walking out of a monster forest. Jihan cleans up his expression and gives them the safest smile he can. Jihan knows he cannot explain that he fell from heaven because of a divine mistake. He says calmly that he came from an isolated village and was separated on the road. The merchant studies his clean speech, handsome face, and the monster blood on his sleeve. Instead of turning him away, the merchant offers him a ride to the nearest city, Veyroun. Inside the wagon sits a young auburn-haired girl with bright eyes and a merchant badge. She keeps glancing at Jihan's sword and the mana stones in his pouch. Finally, she asks the question on her mind. "Are you an adventurer?" Jihan pauses, because he still does not know what adventurers mean in this world. The girl explains that adventurers take monster hunting quests and sell materials to the Adventurer Guild. She adds that merchants register with the Merchant Guild to trade legally across cities. Warrior guilds, craftsman guilds, mage guilds, healer houses, and noble trade offices all shape the economy. Jihan listens closely, building a mental map of where status and money move fastest. The wagon suddenly stops. The horned horses panic as wolf-like monsters step onto the road. The girl whispers that they are level 3 werewolves, stronger than goblins. The travelers freeze, but Jihan calmly steps down from the wagon with his sword drawn. The werewolves attack, but Jihan's enhanced senses catch every movement. He defeats them with clean, controlled strikes while keeping the wagon safe. The travelers stare as he collects the mana stones like business inventory. As the wagon continues toward shining Veyroun, Jihan smiles. "This world is going to make me rich." The merchant wagon rolls forward again after the battle on the road. The auburn-haired merchant girl keeps looking at him with bright curiosity. The defeated werewolves have dissolved into mana stones inside Jihan's inventory. The travelers still stare at him like they witnessed a noble knight in disguise. Jihan sits calmly, cleaning his sword with a cloth as if nothing unusual happened. The girl leans closer and asks again, "Are you really not an adventurer?" She decides to explain the world to him properly. Jihan smiles politely and repeats his made-up story about growing up in an isolated village. He says his village had no guild branches, no official adventurer ranks, and very little contact with outside towns. The girl gasps, shocked that such a place could still exist. The girl introduces herself as Lyra Ven, an apprentice merchant from the Ven Trading House. Jihan decides to remember the name Ven Trading House. She is confident, lively, and clearly proud of knowing the city better than most travelers. Her father manages small trade routes between villages and Verun. Jihan immediately notices that she is not just cute, but useful, informed, and socially connected. Lyra explains that adventurers are independent workers who take quests from the Adventurer Guild. Jihan quietly thinks adventuring is the fastest way to gather starting capital. They hunt monsters, escort caravans, explore ruins, gather herbs, and investigate dangerous zones. Ranks begin at copper and rise through iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and mithril. High-ranked adventurers can earn enough money to rival minor nobles. Lyra continues explaining the structure of Verun. Jihan realizes guilds are the true economic network of this world. The Merchant Guild handles trade permits, contracts, business licenses, and merchant disputes. The Warrior Guild trains guards, soldiers, and professional duelists. The Craftsman Guild, Mage Guild, and Healer houses each control important parts of city life. Lyra takes several coins from her pouch to teach Jihan the currency. Jihan compares the system to investment capital in his mind. 100 copper coins equal 1 silver coin. 100 silver coins equal 1 gold coin. 100 gold coins equal 1 platinum coin, a fortune most commoners never touch. Lyra explains that mana stones are used for magic tools, lamps, heating devices, and noble alchemy. Jihan decides not to reveal everything too quickly. Normal low-grade stones sell for small amounts, but clean high-purity stones are much more valuable. Jihan remembers the stones from his fights glowing brighter than Lyra's examples. He keeps his expression neutral while realizing his monster drops may be unusually high quality. The wagon climbs a hill as sunset spreads orange light across the sky. Lyra proudly says, "Welcome to Verun, the Sapphire Trade City." Below them stands Verun, a massive trade city surrounded by white walls and blue-roofed towers. Merchant banners wave above the gates, and magic lamps glow along the roads. Jihan stares at the city like a businessman seeing an untouched market for the first time. A long line of wagons, travelers, guards, and merchants waits before the main gate. He realizes he may not have enough official identification to enter smoothly. Armored gatekeepers check documents, cargo, and travel tokens. Lyra explains that everyone must pay an entry tax or show a Merchant Guild travel pass. Jihan remembers he only has 10 silver coins from the God's starter kit. When the wagon reaches the gate, the guard asks for Jihan's travel token. Jihan quietly promises to repay him after selling his mana stones. Jihan calmly admits that he lost his documents while traveling through the forest. The guard narrows his eyes because people without papers are treated with suspicion. Before tension rises, the merchant driver steps forward and pays Jihan's entry fee. The merchant driver laughs and waves away Jihan's promise. The wagon passes through the gates of Verun. He says a few silver coins are nothing compared to having his life saved from werewolves. The other passengers nod in agreement and thank Jihan again. Jihan bows politely, understanding that reputation has already started becoming a form of currency. Verun streets are alive with merchants, adventurers, street performers, nobles, and beast-drawn carts. He thinks, no advertising, no branding, no mass production. Perfect. Magic lamps float over the main avenue, glowing blue like captured stars. Shops sell swords, potions, cloaks, bread, scrolls, herbs, and strange monster materials. Jihan's eyes move quickly, studying products, prices, customers, and weaknesses in the market. The wagon stops near a busy plaza. Jihan accepts her help with a charming smile. Lyra asks Jihan where he plans to go first. Jihan says he needs to register as an adventurer and sell his mana stones. Lyra smiles and offers to guide him, saying new visitors get scammed easily. Lyra leads Jihan through the main street toward the Adventurer Guild. She begins wondering if he is truly from an isolated village. She points out the Merchant Guild, the Central Market, the Noble District, and the cheaper inns. Jihan asks casual questions, but every answer becomes useful business data. Lyra notices how quickly he understands trade routes, taxes, and guild influence. The Adventurer Guild stands at the edge of the main plaza. Jihan steps toward the guild entrance. The building is huge, made from dark wood, white stone, and monster bone decorations. A giant sign shows crossed swords behind a silver dragon emblem. Adventurers of all types enter and leave: swordsmen, mages, archers, healers, and beast tamers. The inside of the guild is loud, warm, and full of energy. Someone mutters, "Is he a noble's son?" Quest boards cover one wall, displaying requests for monster hunts, escorts, gathering jobs, and dungeon scouting. A tavern area sits on the other side where adventurers drink, argue, and boast about achievements. The moment Jihan enters, several people turn to stare at his clean clothes and handsome face. Some adventurers smirk, assuming Jihan is a pretty rich boy playing hero. The receptionist looks up and freezes for half a second. Others notice the dried monster blood on his sleeve and become more cautious. Lyra walks beside him confidently, which makes the stares even stronger. Jihan ignores everyone and walks directly to the registration counter. The receptionist is a composed young woman named Arya, wearing the guild's blue and silver uniform. Jihan calmly repeats his isolated village story. She quickly regains professionalism and asks if Jihan wants to register. Jihan answers politely and gives his name as Seo Jihan. Arya hesitates because his name sounds unfamiliar to local naming customs. Arya hands Jihan a registration form asking for age, origin, combat experience, and preferred weapon. Jihan asks how quickly ranks can increase. Jihan fills it out neatly, writing that he is 18 and uses a sword. He leaves many details vague but believable. Arya explains that all new adventurers start at copper rank, regardless of ability. Arya explains that rank increases depend on completed quests, combat record, guild evaluation, and trustworthiness. Arya asks if he brought monster materials to sell. Copper adventurers can only take low-risk quests unless supervised. Illegal quest skipping, false reports, and stealing party loot can lead to permanent guild bans. Jihan listens carefully, treating the guild rules like contract law. Jihan places a few low-level mana stones on the counter. Jihan simply says, "From goblins and werewolves on the road." Arya's professional expression changes the moment she examines them. The stones are unusually clean, stable, and bright for low-level monster drops. She asks where he obtained them. Arya calls another guild appraiser to inspect the stones. The appraiser asks how many stones he has. The appraiser uses a crystal lens, then immediately straightens in surprise. He says the purity is nearly 10 times better than normal stones of the same grade. Nearby adventurers overhear and begin staring more seriously at Jihan. Jihan pauses and decides not to reveal his entire inventory. One veteran adventurer whispers, "Copper rank? No way." He produces only part of the stones he collected. Even that small amount covers the counter in glowing blue crystals. The guild hall grows quieter. The appraiser calculates the total value carefully. Jihan realizes monster hunting can fund his first business phase. Because of the high purity, the stones sell for much more than expected. Arya places a heavy pouch of coins on the counter. Jihan opens it and sees more money than a beginner should earn in weeks. Arya gives Jihan a small copper badge stamped with the Adventurer Guild emblem. He thinks every empire starts at copper. The badge officially recognizes him as a copper rank adventurer. Some adventurers laugh at the low rank, but others keep staring at the mana stone payout. Jihan pins the badge to his coat without shame. Lyra brings Jihan to the copper rank quest board. He memorizes every monster-related quest near Veyron. Most tasks are simple: herb gathering, rat extermination, lost pet search, and goblin sightings. Jihan notices monster hunting quests pay better and also produce mana stones. He immediately understands the best income loop: quests plus drops plus rank growth. A rough-looking adventurer blocks Jihan's path. Jihan catches the man's wrist before anyone can react. The man mocks him, asking if his pretty face can survive real danger. Lyra looks worried, but Jihan remains calm. The adventurer reaches for Jihan's shoulder, trying to intimidate him. Jihan squeezes lightly. Arya quietly updates Jihan's file with a note: abnormal strength. The adventurer's face turns pale from pain. Jihan smiles politely and says he does not want trouble on his first day. The guild hall goes silent as the adventurer backs away. Outside the guild, Lyra congratulates Jihan on becoming an adventurer. Lyra walks away, but looks back once with a smile. Jihan thanks her for guiding him and teaching him about the city. Lyra says the Ven trading house is near the South Market if he ever needs help. Jihan says he will remember that. Jihan stands alone in the main plaza with his new guild badge and coin pouch. Jihan decides to explore the city before choosing an inn. The city feels enormous, noisy, and full of possibility. He watches merchants shouting prices, nobles entering carriages, and workers carrying goods by hand. His modern business instincts begin mapping opportunities everywhere. Jihan walks through the central market, studying each stall. He whispers, "This market is asleep." He sees soaps that smell harsh, rough cloth sold as luxury, and poorly packaged potions leaking from corked bottles. Noble customers pay high prices for products that would fail instantly on Earth. Jihan's eyes sharpen with business excitement. Jihan notices that most shops rely on handwritten signs and shouting to attract customers. His future business empire begins forming in his mind. There is no proper branding, no product consistency, no packaging strategy, and no large-scale advertising. Even luxury goods depend more on noble reputation than customer experience. Jihan realizes his earth knowledge may be more powerful than magic. As night approaches, Jihan finds a clean but modest inn called the Moonlit Kettle. Jihan enters his private room for the first time in this world. The innkeeper charges a fair price for a room, dinner, and breakfast. Jihan pays easily using his mana stone earnings. The innkeeper becomes extra polite after seeing his Adventurer Guild badge. Inside the room, Jihan empties his coin pouch onto the desk. The locked skill icon flickers again. He separates coins by value and calculates his current capital. Then he lists immediate goals: rank up, earn more, learn laws, register business, study magic economy. He writes product ideas from Earth that could work in Veyron. Mana core stabilization, 21%. A blue system message appears before Jihan. Mana core stabilization, 21%. Stronger monsters may unlock his hidden skill. The locked skill icon pulses faintly. Mana core stabilization, 21%. A warning appears: insufficient mana for full activation. Jihan reads the message and immediately understands the pattern. Jihan opens the inn window and looks over Veyron's glowing streets. In the darkness above the city, a shadowed figure watches Jihan from a rooftop. Somewhere in the city, adventurers drink, merchants count money, nobles scheme, and guilds control power. Jihan smiles, no longer feeling like a lost victim of divine error. He closes his notebook with one final line written inside: build capital, build product, build empire. Morning light enters Jihan's room at the moonlit Kettle Inn. Jihan gets dressed and prepares to enter Veyron as a working adventurer. Jihan wakes before sunrise, already sitting up like a businessman preparing for a major meeting. His notebook lies open on the desk with plans written in neat lines. The final words on the page read: Adventurer capital first. Business empire second. Jihan counts his remaining coins from yesterday's mana stone sale. His locked skill icon flickers faintly, then goes silent. The money is decent for a beginner, but far too small for the empire he imagines. He lists his immediate priorities: learn guild rules, farm mana stones, raise rank, study markets, identify products. He circles one phrase twice: high purity mana stones equals fastest capital. Jihan eats breakfast in the inn's dining room while listening to other guests. He hears about a copper rank quest involving goblins near an old mill. Adventurers complain about goblin nests, wolf packs, and low-paying escort quests. Merchants discuss rising potion prices and the difficulty of transporting goods safely. Jihan quietly collects every useful detail without joining the conversation. Jihan arrives at the Adventurer Guild as the morning rush begins. Jihan walks directly toward the copper rank quest board. Copper and iron rank adventurers crowd around the lower quest boards. Arya, the receptionist, notices him entering and gives a professional nod. Several adventurers remember his strange mana stone sale from yesterday and watch him closely. The copper rank board is filled with simple requests. Jihan removes the quest paper from the board. Herb collection, cellar rat removal, lost pet search, farm fence repair, and goblin scouting. Jihan ignores the low-profit tasks and focuses on monster-related quests. One quest catches his attention: investigate goblin activity near the abandoned Greyroot Mill. Jihan places the quest paper on Arya's counter. Arya stamps the quest but writes another note in his file. Arya explains that copper rank adventurers are only expected to scout the goblin area, not clear it. She warns him that beginners often become overconfident after one successful fight. Jihan smiles and says he understands the difference between confidence and stupidity. A group of copper rank adventurers approaches Jihan near the guild exit. Rod's smile fades slightly as Jihan leaves alone. Their leader, a broad-shouldered boy named Rod, says Jihan should join their party if he wants to survive. Rod's tone sounds friendly, but his eyes keep glancing toward Jihan's coin pouch. Jihan politely refuses, saying he wants to test his own limits first. On a rooftop across from the guild, the shadowed figure from last night watches Jihan depart. Jihan's enhanced senses notice a faint presence behind him. The figure wears a dark cloak and carries a thin silver dagger. A small badge under the cloak briefly shows the symbol of the Warrior Guild. The Watcher quietly follows from above. Jihan exits through Veyron's eastern gate after showing his new copper rank badge. Jihan compares the road to a supply route that needs protection. The guards barely question him this time because guild badges carry legal weight. He follows a dirt road leading toward farms and old forest paths. The city walls shrink behind him as the wild lands open ahead. Jihan passes small farms where workers use wooden tools and animal power. Jihan thinks simple earth technology could change this entire region. He sees villagers struggling to move heavy sacks by hand. He notices poor storage, slow transport, weak packaging, and wasted labor everywhere. Instead of pity alone, his mind identifies future business opportunities. The abandoned Greyroot Mill stands beside a narrow stream. He realizes there are far more goblins here than the quest report suggested. Its wooden blades are broken, and vines cover the old stone walls. Goblin footprints surround the muddy ground. Jihan crouches and studies the tracks like a detective. Instead of charging in, Jihan climbs a nearby tree to observe the area. A red label appears, Level 5 Goblin Captain. He counts goblins moving between the mill, the stream, and a hidden cave behind the roots. At least 20 goblins occupy the area. One larger goblin carries a bone club and wears pieces of stolen armor. Jihan studies the goblin camp from above. He decides to strike carefully, not recklessly. Copper rank quest instructions only require scouting and reporting. But clearing the camp could bring quest rewards, mana stones, and reputation. Jihan calculates the danger, escape routes, and attack order. Jihan drops silently behind a lone goblin guard. The goblin camp has not noticed him yet. One clean strike defeats it before it can shout. A low-grade mana stone appears and enters his inventory. Jihan hides the evidence and moves toward the next guard. Jihan eliminates 2 more isolated goblins near the stream. His level rises to 2. His enhanced senses track footsteps, breathing, and weapon movement. The basic sword instinct skill guides his body with frightening efficiency. He begins understanding why the god called these starter gifts compensation. A blue system window appears. Level up. Level 1-Level 2. A warning appears, mana core stabilization, 33%. Jihan feels warmth spread through his body. His strength, speed, and mana core all improve slightly. The locked skill icon pulses again, brighter than before. A goblin discovers one of the missing guards. The goblin captain roars from the mill entrance. It screams, alerting the entire camp. Goblins rush out from the mill carrying knives, clubs, and crude bows. Jihan steps into the open, no longer hiding. 3 goblins charge together. The watching shadowed figure pauses on a tree branch, impressed. Jihan dodges the first, blocks the second, and kicks the third backward. He cuts one down, then uses the fallen club to knock away an arrow. His movements become sharper with every exchange. More goblins rush from the hidden cave. Jihan starts using terrain instead of pure power. Even with Jihan's strength, their numbers begin forcing him backward. He realizes strength alone is not enough when surrounded. He grabs a fallen shield and changes tactics. Jihan retreats toward the broken mill wall. The goblin captain grows furious and charges. The narrow space forces goblins to attack only 2 at a time. He defeats them efficiently, saving stamina and controlling the battle flow. His expression remains calm, like he is managing a boardroom negotiation. The level 5 goblin captain swings its bone club with terrifying force. The captain's second strike knocks Jihan across the ground. The club smashes the mill wall where Jihan stood a moment earlier. Jihan feels the pressure difference immediately. This monster is nothing like the level 2 goblins. Jihan rolls through mud and broken wood. Jihan says, "Good. Now I know the standard." Pain shoots through his shoulder. For the first time in this world, he understands he is not invincible. Instead of panicking, he smiles coldly. The goblin captain attacks again with heavy, wide swings. He identifies the opening. Jihan dodges narrowly and studies the timing. The captain is stronger, but its movements are simple and emotional. Jihan waits for the third repeated swing. The captain raises its club for a downward smash. A brighter mana stone drops from the captain's body. Jihan steps inside the attack range instead of retreating. He drives his sword through the gap under the stolen armor. The monster freezes, then collapses. Jihan picks up the captain's mana stone. His level rises again. It glows deeper blue than the others. The system identifies it as a mid-low grade mana stone with high purity. Jihan immediately understands it will sell for far more than normal. The system window appears. Level up. Level 2-level 3. The name disappears before he can read the rest. His mana core stabilization increases to 48%. The locked skill icon. Inside his room at the Moonlit Kettle, Jihan places the black closed eye token on the desk. Jihan writes one line in his notebook: unknown organization connected to Goblin Camp. The token glows faintly whenever the moonlight touches it. Jihan turns it between his fingers, studying the carving, material, weight, and hidden mana pattern. It is not monster loot, not merchant currency, and not a normal guild badge. Jihan spreads his notes across the desk. Jihan realizes this is not just an adventurer problem, but a trade security problem. Greyroot Mill, Goblin overpopulation, stolen goods, closed eye token, warrior guild scout. He connects each clue with careful lines like a business analyst mapping a market problem. The pattern suggests someone may be controlling monsters near trade routes. Morning arrives over Verun, and bells ring from the city towers. Jihan leaves the inn before most merchants open their shops. Jihan dresses in repaired clothes but keeps his sword close. He hides the closed eye token in his inventory instead of carrying it openly. His plan is simple: visit the warrior guild, learn the truth, and avoid being used. Jihan walks through a part of the city he has not explored yet. Jihan sees the warrior guild building ahead. The streets become wider, cleaner, and filled with training yards. Young fighters practice sword forms while older veterans shout corrections. Unlike the Adventurer Guild, this area feels disciplined and military. The Warrior Guild is built like a fortress, with stone walls and red banners. One guard blocks his path and asks his business. A giant iron emblem shows a shield split by a sword. Guards at the entrance study everyone who approaches. Jihan notices their posture, hand positions, and attention to threats. Jihan calmly says he was invited by Celine. Jihan realizes the token is more dangerous than Celine admitted. The guard remains suspicious until Jihan mentions the closed eye token. The guard's expression changes immediately. He steps aside and signals another guard to escort Jihan inside. The main hall is filled with organized activity. Celine appears from an upper balcony. Warriors spar in marked circles while instructors evaluate their movements. Mission boards list escort contracts, guard assignments, duel requests, and military training commissions. Jihan compares it to a professional combat agency rather than a normal guild. Celine jumps lightly from the balcony and lands without sound. Jihan replies, usually both, depending on profit. Several trainees notice and immediately straighten their posture. She walks toward Jihan with a half smile. You actually came. Good. That means you're either brave or very bad at avoiding trouble. Celine leads Jihan into a private side room. She says the token belongs to a hidden group called the Closed Eye. She asks him to place the token on the table. When he does, the room's protection rune activates automatically. Celine's expression becomes serious. Celine explains that the Closed Eye is not a public guild. Jihan realizes the Goblin Camp may have been deliberately created. It is an underground organization involved in smuggling, monster baiting, illegal contracts, and noble blackmail. They use monsters to disrupt roads and then profit from trade instability. The Warrior Guild has been tracking them for months. Jihan immediately understands the economic angle. Jihan says, "This is not random crime. This is market manipulation." If roads become dangerous, merchants pay higher escort fees and goods become more expensive. Whoever controls fear can control prices. Celine notices how quickly he understands the strategy. Celine crosses her arms and studies him closely. She says the guild master wants to meet him. She asks how an isolated village boy knows merchant strategy better than trained guild officers. Jihan smiles and says his village had complicated people. Celine clearly does not believe him, but she lets it pass. Jihan enters a large office filled with weapons, maps, and monster reports. Garen asks if the rumors about Greyroot Mill are true. An older man with a scarred face stands by the window. Celine introduces him as Garen Vale, master of the Veyron Warrior Guild branch. Garen looks at Jihan like a commander judging a new weapon. Jihan explains the goblin camp, the level 5 captain, the stolen goods, and the token. Garen says the report matches several missing caravan incidents. He avoids mentioning his full inventory, the god, or the locked skill. Garen listens without interrupting. Celine watches to see whether Jihan exaggerates. Garen says the warrior guild cannot officially hire a copper rank adventurer for classified work. Jihan's eyes sharpen at the word payment. However, it can request a combat evaluation and temporary cooperation. If Jihan passes, he can assist Celine in investigating closed-eye activity. Payment will be higher than normal copper rank quests. Jihan is led to a circular training yard surrounded by trainees. Garen announces that Jihan will take a basic combat test. The trainees whisper when they see the handsome new copper rank adventurer. Some expect him to embarrass himself. Others recognize Celine and realize this evaluation may not be ordinary. A trainee warrior steps into the circle with a wooden sword. The wooden sword flies from the trainee's hand. Jihan receives a practice blade and tests its balance. The trainee attacks confidently, expecting an easy win. Jihan steps aside and taps the trainee's wrist with perfect timing. Two trainees enter next. The watching trainees stop laughing. They attack from opposite sides. Jihan backs into a position that forces one to block the other. He defeats both using footwork, timing, and minimal force. Celine steps into the circle with two short wooden blades. Celine attacks without warning. Her movement changes the entire atmosphere. Jihan immediately understands that she is far more dangerous than the trainees. Garen says this is the real test. Celine moves like a shadow, striking from sharp angles. Celine says, "Don't smile. I'm not done." Jihan blocks the first attack but barely avoids the second. Her third strike grazes his shoulder. Jihan smiles because he is finally facing someone who can pressure him properly. The duel continues at high speed. Celine's eyes widen in surprise. Jihan stops relying only on strength and begins reading Celine's rhythm. He notices she favors left side feints before low strikes. On the next exchange, he predicts the move and counters. Jihan's wooden blade stops near Celine's shoulder. Garen declares the result acceptable. Celine's blade stops near Jihan's neck at the same time. The yard becomes completely silent. Garen laughs loudly for the first time. After the test, Garen asks where Jihan trained. Garen decides to give him a temporary investigation permit. Jihan repeats that he learned basics in his village. Garen says no village basics explain the level of adaptation. Jihan only smiles, refusing to explain further. In Garen's office, a map is placed on the table. Celine says the quarry may be a closed-eye supply point. Several recent monster attacks are marked around Veyron's trade roads. Each location is connected to merchant losses and unusual mana residue. The pattern points toward an old quarry north of the city. Garen explains that this is not an official adventurer quest. Jihan accepts because the reward, information, and reputation are all valuable. The goal is to observe, gather evidence, and retreat if the enemy is too strong. Celine will lead, and Jihan will assist. If they find proof, both the Warrior Guild and Adventurer Guild will reward him. Celine takes Jihan to a Warrior Guild supply room. Jihan says useless spending is the enemy of growth. She recommends light leather armor, a better belt, basic healing salve, and throwing knives. Jihan buys only what improves survival and refuses overpriced decorative gear. Celine smirks and says he shops like a veteran. Jihan and Celine leave Veyron through the northern gate. The road toward the old quarry grows quieter. The city guards salute Celine because the Warrior Guild carries authority. Jihan notices how reputation changes treatment faster than money alone. He adds another business rule to his mind: status lowers transaction costs. As they walk, Celine teaches Jihan basic field signs. They find fresh tracks leading off the road. Broken grass, claw marks, wagon wheel depth, fake footprints, and mana bait residue. Jihan absorbs the knowledge quickly. Celine begins to realize he learns faster than normal people. Celine crouches beside a patch of dark powder in the grass. They follow the trail toward the quarry. She explains it is monster bait made from blood, herbs, and corrupted mana dust. It can lure weak monsters into specific areas and make them aggressive. Jihan immediately connects it to the goblin camp and werewolf road attack. The old quarry lies between broken cliffs and abandoned stone roads. Celine signals him to stay low. Rusty mining equipment sits half-buried in weeds. A faint smell of blood and bitter herbs hangs in the air. Jihan's enhanced senses detect movement below. From behind rocks, Jihan and Celine watch several hooded figures near the quarry floor. Jihan realizes they have enough evidence, but leaving may not be easy. The figures carry crates marked with fake merchant seals. Inside the crates are bottles of monster bait and black tokens. One agent talks about increasing attacks on the western road next week. A muffled sound comes from a covered wagon near the quarry wall. He says, plans change. Jihan looks closer and sees a young courier tied inside. Celine whispers that the mission was only observation. Jihan's expression hardens as the closed-eye agents prepare to move the wagon. Celine curses under her breath but follows him. The captive accidentally knocks over a metal tool. She throws a stone to distract the nearest guard. Jihan moves silently toward the wagon. He cuts the rope around the captive's wrists. The closed-eye agents turn at the sound. One agent breaks a red vial on the ground. Celine launches forward first, disabling one agent with the back of her blade. Jihan blocks a dagger strike and counters with controlled force. The quarry erupts into chaos as more agents draw weapons. The red vial releases thick mana smoke. The bloodtusk boar charges directly at Jihan. A massive corrupted boar-like monster bursts from a hidden cage. A red label appears, level 8 bloodtusk boar. Celine's face turns serious because this monster is above the expected threat level. Jihan braces as the bloodtusk boar smashes through stone. Behind Jihan, a dark blue portal opens like a doorway into another world. His mana core burns hotter than ever before. The locked skill icon shatters open. The level 8 Bloodtusk boar charges toward Jihan like a living boulder. The Bloodtusk boar reaches striking distance. Behind Jihan, a dark blue portal opens with a low humming sound. Celine freezes for a second, shocked by the sudden spatial distortion. The system window flashes in front of Jihan, unique skill awakened, infinite space portal. Jihan does not fully understand the skill yet. The impact shakes the entire quarry. He only thinks one desperate command: block it. The portal shifts in front of him like a shield-shaped doorway. The Bloodtusk boar crashes headfirst into the portal's surface. Instead of breaking, the portal bends inward like deep water. A warning appears: mana consumption too high. Half of the Bloodtusk boar's body vanishes into the dark blue space. The monster roars in confusion as its charge loses force. Jihan feels mana drain from his body rapidly. The portal suddenly rejects the monster because Jihan's mana is too low. He realizes the skill is powerful but dangerous to use carelessly. The Bloodtusk boar is thrown sideways into the quarry wall. Stone cracks from the impact. Jihan staggers, dizzy from the sudden mana loss. Celine recovers first and dashes toward the stunned monster. Jihan grips his sword and smiles despite the danger. She slashes at its front leg, weakening its charge ability. The Bloodtusk boar swings its tusks, forcing her to leap backward. She shouts at Jihan to stop staring and finish thinking later. Jihan studies the boar's injuries, speed, weight, and rage. Jihan tells Celine to lure the monster toward the broken crane. He understands that direct strength will not be enough. His new portal can redirect momentum, but only for a short moment. He decides to use the quarry terrain like a trap. Celine runs across the quarry floor, drawing the monster's attention. The boar passes under the old crane. The Bloodtusk boar charges after her, shaking the ground with each step. Jihan climbs onto broken mining equipment and waits for the timing. His mana core burns painfully as he prepares a small portal. Jihan opens a small portal beneath a loose stone counterweight. The boar collapses to one knee with a furious roar. The counterweight drops through the portal. A second portal opens above the Bloodtusk boar. The stone crashes onto the monster's back. The closed-eye agents stare at the portal magic in fear. The agents realize they cannot escape easily. One agent shouts that spatial skills should not belong to a copper rank adventurer. Another agent tries to run with a crate of monster bait. Celine throws a dagger that pins the agent's cloak to a wooden post. The freed courier crawls away from the wagon with shaking hands. The Bloodtusk boar rises again, angrier than before. Jihan notices the courier is injured and terrified. He tosses the courier a small healing salve he bought earlier. The courier looks stunned that Jihan thinks of him during the battle. Jihan tries to open another large portal. He decides to end the fight using sword and small portals only. The portal flickers unstable and collapses halfway. A system warning appears: current mana insufficient for large gate. Jihan clicks his tongue, annoyed that his strongest ability has beginner-level fuel. The Bloodtusk boar charges again, faster than expected. The monster loses balance and crashes through a pile of crates. Jihan opens a palm-sized portal beside its eye. He uses the distraction to slide under its tusk. His sword cuts across the damaged front leg. Several monster bait vials break under the boar's body. The battle must end before reinforcements arrive. Red smoke erupts across the quarry floor. The smell attracts howls. Celine's expression darkens as she realizes more monsters may come. Jihan watches the boar struggle to stand. Jihan launches forward. He sees a cracked section of armor-like hide near its neck. Celine understands his plan from his eyes alone. She attacks from the side, forcing the boar to expose the weak point. The blood-tusk boar swings its tusk toward Jihan's chest. The blood-tusk boar lets out one final roar. Jihan opens a tiny portal that shifts the tusk's direction by a few inches. That small change creates enough space for him to step in. He drives his sword into the cracked weak point. The monster collapses and dissolves into dark red particles. Infinite space portal stabilizes into its first usable stage. A large crimson mana stone remains where its heart had been. The system window appears, level up. Level 3-level 5. Another notification follows, mana core stabilization, 72%. Jihan opens the skill information window. One available feature appears, basic space storage and mini workroom. Infinite space portal allows him to access a private spatial domain. The domain can store objects, create limited structures, and later generate imagined items using mana. Most features are locked because his mana capacity is still too low. Jihan opens the portal carefully this time. Jihan realizes this skill is not only for combat. Inside is a small empty room floating in blue darkness. The space is silent, clean, and separate from the outside world. A simple work table appears automatically at the center. Jihan stares into the private space with widening eyes. Jihan thinks, this is not a skill. This is a factory seed. A safe storage room. A hidden production workshop. A place where no merchant, noble, guild, or thief can see his real methods. Celine reminds him that monsters are still approaching. Jihan says, evidence is safer when nobody can steal it. Jihan opens the portal and stores the closed-eye crates inside instantly. The monster bait, black tokens, fake merchant seals, and documents disappear into the space. Celine stares at him like he just broke every rule of logistics. Howls echo from the hills around the quarry. The group prepares to escape before the next wave arrives. The broken monster bait has already attracted wild beasts. Celine helps the injured courier onto his feet. Jihan collects the blood-tusk mana stone and remaining usable materials. Celine leads them through a narrow quarry service path. One closed-eye agent secretly survives under broken wood. Jihan follows while carrying the courier when the young man can no longer walk. Behind them, shadowy monsters enter the quarry and fight over the spilled bait. The quarry becomes chaos as they disappear into the trees. The surviving agent crawls from the rubble after Jihan and Celine leave. The charm transmits the report to an unknown master. His arm is injured, but his eyes are full of fear. He pulls out a black communication charm shaped like a closed eye. He whispers that a copper rank boy used spatial magic. Jihan, Celine, and the rescued courier reach Veyron after nightfall. His portal skill icon dims from strain. City guards rush forward when they see the courier's injuries. Celine orders them to inform the warrior guild immediately. Jihan remains calm, but his body is exhausted from mana overuse. Guild Master Garen listens as Celine reports everything. Jihan realizes his skill is now a secret worth protecting. Jihan opens the portal briefly and removes the evidence crates. The room becomes completely silent when the impossible storage skill is revealed. Garen tells every guard present to keep silent about what they saw. Warrior Guild investigators inspect the crates. Celine receives official praise, but Garen's eyes keep returning to Jihan. They confirm monster bait, illegal trade seals, closed-eye tokens, and route disruption plans. The rescued courier identifies the agents as the same people who attacked his delivery group. Garen declares the quarry operation a major success. Garen places a reward pouch on the desk. Jihan now has 2 guild connections in only a few days. The amount is far higher than a copper rank adventurer usually earns. Jihan accepts it calmly, but inside he is already calculating business possibilities. Garen also gives him a temporary cooperation token from the warrior guild. After the meeting, Celine walks beside Jihan through the warrior guild hallway. Their partnership becomes a little less suspicious and a little more comfortable. She asks directly if he is secretly from a noble bloodline. Jihan says no noble family would drop their heir into a monster forest with 10 silver coins. Celine laughs despite herself. The next morning, Jihan visits the Adventurer Guild to report the unofficial combat result. Arya says his rank evaluation must be moved forward. Arya is shocked when she hears about the level 8 Bloodtusk boar. The appraiser nearly drops his lens after inspecting the Crimson Mana Stone. Nearby adventurers immediately gather to hear the story. Arya explains that the guild cannot instantly promote him to a high rank. Rod, the copper rank party leader, watches from the back with a dark expression. However, surviving and defeating a level 8 monster during a classified cooperation mission is exceptional. The branch will recommend him for early iron rank evaluation. Several adventurers stare at Jihan with jealousy and disbelief. Jihan decides not to sell the Bloodtusk Mana Stone immediately. Jihan stores the stone again, realizing it may be better used as mana fuel. Instead, he asks the appraiser how much it could be worth. The appraiser says its purity is extremely rare for a level 8 monster. It could sell for enough to rent a proper workshop for months. Back at his inn room, Jihan enters the infinite space portal for the first time. New options appear on the system window. The mini workroom floats in quiet blue darkness. He places the Crimson Mana Stone on the work table. The room reacts immediately, absorbing a small amount of mana. The system explains that imagined items require mana, structure knowledge, and material logic. He opens his notebook and writes, "First product test." Complex machines are impossible with his current mana. Simple tools, containers, molds, and basic crafted goods are possible. Jihan smiles because every giant business begins with simple products. Jihan lists items from Earth that could sell well in Varun. He remembers how poor the city's hygiene products looked in the market. Soap, shampoo, perfume, skincare cream, sealed bottles, polished mirrors, modern stationery, packaged sweets. He crosses out anything too expensive to produce at first. He circles one idea: premium scented soap and skincare wash. Inside the portal workroom, Jihan imagines a small elegant bottle and a smooth fragrant cleansing product. The system warns that daily production is currently extremely limited. The work table glows as mana gathers. A single prototype bottle forms slowly from blue light. Jihan picks it up and studies the clean shape, sealed cap, and soft floral scent. Jihan returns to his inn room with the first prototype in hand. Jihan smiles and says, "Tomorrow, I visit the Merchant Guild." Compared to Varun's rough soaps and expensive noble oils, this product looks revolutionary. He places it on the desk beside his Morning light enters Jihan's room at the moonlit kettle. Jihan writes the product name in his notebook, Lumisilk Cleansing Essence. On the desk sits the first prototype bottle created inside the infinite space portal. The bottle is smooth, elegant, sealed tightly, and filled with soft pearly cleansing liquid. Compared to Varun's rough soaps and oily perfumes, it looks like something from another age. Jihan carefully tests a small amount on his hand. He writes, "Sell the feeling, not only the product." The liquid spreads smoothly and leaves a faint floral scent. It cleans without harshness and makes the skin feel softer. Jihan smiles because he knows nobles will pay heavily for comfort, beauty, and status. Jihan enters the infinite space portal mini workroom. Jihan realizes 500 bottles are enough to start a market test. The work table glows faintly while the crimson bloodtusk mana stone floats above it. A system message explains that current mana can produce only a limited batch per day. With the bloodtusk stone as fuel, the room can create 500 basic units before needing recharge time. Jihan sketches 2 designs in his notebook. Jihan decides not to sell all rights to anyone. The first is a premium bottle with elegant curves, silver markings, and high-grade fragrance. The second is a simpler bottle made for common citizens, cheaper but still better than normal soap. He circles the strategy: nobles create desire, commoners create volume. Jihan repairs his appearance carefully before leaving the inn. Jihan steps into Veyron like he is entering an investor meeting. He wears his clean coat, polished boots, and copper rank adventurer badge. He hides the Warrior Guild cooperation token under his sleeve. The prototype bottle rests safely inside his inventory. The central market is already crowded with sellers shouting over each other. Jihan confirms the market gap is real. Soap merchants display rough brown bars wrapped in cheap cloth. Perfume sellers offer strong-smelling oils in fragile glass vials. Noble servants pass by, clearly dissatisfied but without better options. The merchant guild stands near the wealthiest street in Veyron. Jihan walks toward the entrance with a calm smile. The building is polished white stone with green banners and golden scale emblems. Carriages wait outside while clerks carry ledgers, contracts, and sealed trade boxes. Unlike the Adventurer Guild's loud energy, this place feels controlled, rich, and dangerous in a different way. A guild attendant blocks Jihan at the front desk. Jihan places 1 gold coin on the counter as the registration deposit. The attendant sees his copper rank badge and assumes he is only here to sell monster materials. Jihan politely says he wants to register as an independent merchant. The attendant's expression changes from bored to doubtful. The attendant leads Jihan to a proper registration counter. Jihan answers, "Personal care products." A young registrar with neat brown hair and sharp green eyes looks up from her ledger. She introduces herself as Clara Marin, junior registrar of the Veyron Merchant Guild. She asks what kind of goods Jihan intends to trade. Clara blinks because the phrase sounds unfamiliar. Jihan says, "It is easier to show than explain." Jihan explains that the product is used for cleansing, fragrance, skin comfort, and luxury presentation. Clara assumes it is another herbal soap or noble perfume. Her polite smile suggests low expectations. Jihan removes the premium Lumisilk bottle from his inventory. Clara carefully takes the bottle with both hands. The elegant bottle catches the light from the guild hall windows. Clara's polite expression freezes. Even nearby clerks glance over because the packaging alone looks expensive. Clara examines the seal, texture, weight, and design. She asks how it is used. She asks if the bottle came from a noble alchemy workshop. Jihan simply says it is his own product. Clara looks at him again, suddenly taking him much more seriously. Jihan requests a small basin of water and a cloth. Clara tests a drop on her own hand and becomes silent. Clara allows it, still uncertain but curious. Jihan shows how a small amount creates a smooth cleansing foam and gentle scent. After rinsing, the cloth smells clean and soft instead of harsh or medicinal. Clara rubs her fingers together, surprised by the smooth feeling. Clara says she needs to show it to the guild master immediately. She compares it to noble bath oils but cleaner and easier to use. She realizes noble women, wealthy merchants, and high-class inns would fight for this. Her professional calm begins to crack. Jihan is guided into a comfortable waiting room. Jihan smiles because high security means high profit. The room contains velvet chairs, polished tables, and expensive tea. He notices hidden guards, soundproofing magic, and contract runes on the walls. The Merchant Guild protects negotiations as seriously as warriors protect treasure. The door opens and Clara returns with a large man in a dark green merchant coat. Orlan says, "Show me what made my registrar run." He has silver hair, sharp eyes, and rings on every finger. Clara introduces him as Master Orlan Crest, head of the Verun Merchant Guild branch. Orlan studies Jihan like he is evaluating both a product and a threat. Jihan demonstrates Lumisilk again with calm confidence. Orlan's eyes brighten with merchant greed. Orlan watches the liquid texture, scent release, cleaning effect, and bottle design. He asks direct questions about supply, consistency, ownership, and production capacity. Jihan answers carefully without revealing the infinite space portal. Orlan sits back and folds his hands. Jihan freezes for 1 second. He offers to buy the first full batch immediately. His opening price is 20 platinum coins for exclusive purchase rights to the initial 500 premium bottles. Clara tries not to react, but even she knows the amount is massive. Inside Jihan's mind, 20 platinum coins sound absurdly high. Orlan immediately raises the offer to 25 platinum coins. That amount could let a common person live comfortably for decades. But Jihan keeps his face calm because negotiation rewards silence. Orlan mistakes his silence for dissatisfaction. Jihan hides his surprise behind a thoughtful expression. Jihan raises one finger and says he has conditions. He says 25 platinum coins are acceptable for the premium batch. Clara quietly exhales, realizing the deal is already huge. Orlan smiles, believing he has secured a rare luxury product early. Jihan explains that Lumisilk will have 2 product lines. Orlan studies him with new interest. Premium Lumisilk will be sold to nobles, wealthy merchants, and luxury inns. A simpler daily use version will be sold to common citizens at a reachable price. He refuses to let the product become only a noble toy. Jihan explains that premium goods create prestige. Orlan realizes Jihan is not a lucky inventor but a strategist. Affordable goods create loyalty and stable demand. If commoners use the cheaper version daily, the brand becomes part of city life. If nobles use the premium version, the brand becomes desirable. Orlan asks why Jihan does not simply sell only to nobles for faster profit. Orlan laughs loudly and accepts the 2-line strategy. Jihan replies that short-term greed makes a merchant rich once. A brand makes a merchant rich forever. Clara writes the sentence down before she realizes she is doing it. Jihan promises the first batch of 500 premium bottles. Orlan's smile sharpens at the word formula. He says the lower-grade daily version will come after he prepares separate packaging. The common version will sell at a lower price so ordinary people can afford it. The Merchant Guild will receive distribution rights in Verun, but not ownership of the formula. Orlan tries to ask where the product is made. Jihan proves he will not be swallowed by the guild. Jihan smiles and says production methods are a trade secret. He offers supply partnership, not formula transfer. The contract rune on the table glows as Clara prepares legal terms. Clara writes the contract with careful wording. Jihan signs only after making 2 corrections. It includes payment, batch quantity, product quality, delivery timing, and confidentiality clauses. Jihan reads every line slowly, checking for hidden traps. Orlan watches with amusement as the young adventurer reads like a professional lawyer. A locked payment chest is brought into the room. The first real seed money for his new empire is secured. Inside are shining platinum coins, each worth more than most citizens see in years. Jihan accepts the chest with controlled composure. Inside his mind, his business capital meter explodes upward. Jihan opens his inventory and removes crates of premium Lumisilk bottles. Orlan becomes even more convinced the product can dominate Veyroon. He does not reveal the infinite space portal, only the normal inventory function granted by the system. Clara and Orlan inspect the bottles carefully. Every unit has consistent shape, seal, scent, and quality. Orlan assigns Clara as Jihan's official guild contact. Clara blushes slightly but maintains professional posture. Clara is surprised by the responsibility but accepts immediately. Jihan understands this means future negotiations will pass through her. He politely tells Clara he looks forward to working with her. Jihan exits the merchant guild with a platinum payment chest stored safely away. Jihan walks toward the market to study expansion possibilities. The city street looks different now. Every building could become a shop, every merchant a partner, every noble a customer. His dream of building a global company on Earth has transformed into building a world-level brand here. While exploring a side district, Jihan hears angry voices from a narrow alley. He realizes Veyroon's economy has a cruel side he has not seen yet. Several poorly dressed workers and merchants gather near a rough wooden platform. A harsh man is arguing with a buyer over the price of enslaved workers. Jihan's smile disappears instantly. On the platform stands a young woman around Jihan's age with pale silver hair and tired blue eyes. The girl lowers her eyes as if she has already given up resisting. She wears a slave collar marked with ownership runes. The seller advertises her as literate, obedient, and useful for household management. The way the crowd looks at her makes Jihan's expression grow colder. Jihan listens to the seller's words and quickly understands the local law. Jihan decides he will not leave her there. Slavery is legal in this world, but that does not make it right. He also notices the girl watching account ledgers and prices with unusually sharp eyes. She is not just frightened, she is intelligent. The seller notices Jihan's fine appearance and assumes he is a wealthy young noble. The ownership contract transfers to Jihan. He immediately raises the price, expecting selfish interest. Jihan's face remains calm, but his eyes become cold. He pays the legal price without bargaining because delay would only humiliate her longer. The slave collar changes ownership mark. For the first time, she looks directly at him. The young woman flinches and prepares herself for another cruel master. Jihan steps closer but keeps a respectful distance. He says quietly, "I bought the contract to remove it, not to use you." Jihan asks her name. In the alley shadows, someone wearing a closed-eye token watches Jihan interfere with another hidden business. She answers softly, "Miral." Jihan tells Miral that if she wants, he can free her and offer paid work. The alley market grows quiet after Jihan purchases Miral's contract. He asks where the contract removal office is located. The slave seller smiles greedily, thinking he has made an easy profit from a young rich man. Miral stands silently with the ownership collar around her neck, waiting for the next order. Jihan's expression remains calm, but his eyes show clear disgust toward the collar. The slave seller laughs, assuming Jihan is joking. The seller stops laughing. He says most buyers keep collars on for control, especially with educated slaves. Jihan turns toward him with a cold smile. He says, I did not ask what most buyers do. Miral slowly raises her eyes toward Jihan. The seller reluctantly points toward a small legal office near the market street. She expected orders, threats, or fake kindness. Instead, Jihan only asks for the legal process to free her. Her hands tremble because the idea of choice feels more frightening than command. Jihan walks ahead, leaving enough space so Miral does not feel cornered. The observer follows from a distance. Miral follows quietly, still unsure whether this is another trick. The crowd watches them leave with curiosity and gossiping whispers. In the shadows, a closed-eye observer touches a black token under his sleeve. The legal office is small, dusty, and filled with old wooden shelves. The clerk warns that freedom termination costs extra. A tired clerk looks up from stacks of ownership papers. Jihan places Miral's contract on the desk and asks to terminate the binding. The clerk freezes because most people come to transfer ownership, not remove it. Jihan pays the extra fee without complaint. The removal spell begins. The clerk pulls out a rune stamp and a silver key engraved with legal magic. Miral touches the collar nervously as the clerk prepares the removal circle. Jihan looks away slightly, giving her privacy and dignity. The ownership runes on the collar glow red. Miral stares at the collar on the desk like it belongs to a dead life. The collar unlocks with a sharp metallic click. Miral slowly removes it from her neck with shaking fingers. For the first time, no ownership mark remains on her body. The clerk asks Jihan if he wants to register Miral as a hired servant. Miral does not answer immediately. Jihan says no and asks for a normal employment contract template instead. Miral looks at him in disbelief. Jihan turns to her and says, "You can refuse. That matters." Outside the legal office, Miral finally speaks more clearly. Jihan says he saw her correcting the seller's price calculations in silence. She asks what Jihan really wants from her. Jihan says he needs someone intelligent, disciplined, and good with ledgers. Miral asks why he thinks she can do that. Miral is startled that he noticed. Miral's expression softens for the first time. She admits she was trained in reading, accounts, inventory records, and contract copying. Her former owner's house used her skills but never gave her credit. Jihan says that in his business, skill matters more than birth. Jihan explains the position clearly. Jihan says, no hidden condition. A business runs better when people trust it. Miral would manage simple accounts, inventory lists, schedules, supplier records, and staff notes. She would receive wages, food support, safe lodging, and the right to leave with notice. Miral keeps waiting for the cruel hidden condition. Miral takes a long breath. Miral accepts the trial with careful hesitation. She says she does not know if she trusts him yet. Jihan nods and says that is reasonable. He offers a temporary trial contract for 1 week. Jihan leads Miral to a modest clothing shop near the South Market. Miral sees herself in a mirror and goes silent. Miral tries to refuse, saying her current clothes are enough. Jihan says a supervisor should not look like someone the world is allowed to ignore. The shopkeeper brings simple but clean clothes suitable for work. Miral touches the new sleeves carefully. Jihan quietly pays without interrupting her moment. The clothes are not luxurious, but they are clean, warm, and hers. Her silver hair falls over her shoulders as she stares at her reflection. For a moment, she looks like a young woman again, not property. Jihan brings Miral to a small food stall with hot bread and meat soup. Jihan pretends not to notice so she can keep her pride. Miral holds the bowl with both hands, unsure if she is allowed to eat first. Jihan starts eating casually to show there is no ceremony or permission needed. Miral takes her first bite and nearly cries from the warmth. At a quiet table, Jihan explains Lumisilk cleansing essence. Miral says the main risk is not customers, but jealous merchants. He describes premium bottles for nobles and lower-cost versions for common customers. Miral listens carefully and asks precise questions about storage, pricing, and supply. Jihan becomes impressed by how fast she understands distribution problems. Miral explains that Varun's market is controlled by merchant families and backroom alliances. He says, "Then I hired the right person." A new product can make money, but it can also create enemies. If Jihan rises too quickly, established traders may try bribery, sabotage, or legal pressure. Jihan smiles because he expected competition, but her detail is valuable. Jihan and Miral visit the merchant guild in the afternoon. Clara's eyebrows rise with interest. Clara Marin spots Jihan and hurries toward him with a stack of documents. She notices Miral standing beside him and studies her carefully. Jihan introduces Miral as his assistant and temporary business supervisor. Clara gives Miral a sample inventory sheet for the Lumisilk batch. Clara smiles and says Jihan has good eyes for talent. Miral reads it quietly for several seconds. She points out a small counting inconsistency in the storage column. Clara checks the paper and realizes Miral is correct. Clara leads them into a side office. Jihan learns his product is moving faster than expected. She reveals that several premium Lumisilk bottles were shown privately to noble households. The response was immediate and intense. 3 noble families already requested early purchase rights. Clara explains that noble women praised the fragrance, sealed bottle, and smooth skin feel. A new premium expansion idea forms instantly. One noble servant asked if the product was imported from the royal capital. Another requested a custom scent for her lady. Jihan writes down the words custom scent. Miral asks whether limiting the first batch would increase desire. Jihan decides Miral's first idea will be used immediately. Clara looks at her, surprised by the merchant-level thinking. Jihan smiles because scarcity marketing exists even without modern advertising. Miral suggests numbering the premium bottles to make them feel exclusive. Jihan explains that every premium bottle can carry a small serial mark. Clara rushes to bring the idea to Master Orlan. The first 500 bottles will become Founder's Batch. Nobles will not just buy cleanser, they will buy status. Clara becomes visibly excited by the marketing angle. Master Orlan enters the office with a merchant's grin. Orlan begins seeing Jihan as a long-term partner, not a one-time supplier. After hearing the Founder's Batch idea, he laughs in approval. He says nobles love being first even more than being correct. Jihan replies that emotion drives luxury markets. Clara drafts an addendum for numbered premium packaging. Miral requests a correction before Jihan signs. Miral checks the wording carefully. She catches a clause that gives the Merchant Guild too much control over future bottle design. Jihan silently watches, pleased by her attention. Clara accepts the correction professionally. She realizes her work has value here. Orlan glances at Miral with new respect. Jihan signs only after the design rights remain under his ownership. Miral lowers her eyes, but the corner of her mouth lifts slightly. Jihan asks Clara about selling a daily use version to normal citizens. The common version gains its first business direction. Clara says price must stay low enough for workers but high enough to protect the premium image. Miral suggests selling smaller bottles instead of weakening quality too much. Jihan likes the idea because smaller packaging keeps quality and lowers entry cost. Jihan and Miral leave the merchant guild with contracts, sales notes, and future order requests. The Lumisote brand begins entering Veyron's upper society. Miral carries the ledger carefully like it is treasure. Clara watches them leave, curious about how fast Jihan's small company may grow. Orlan stands upstairs, already preparing noble sales invitations. In a dark underground room, the closed-eye observer kneels before a hooded superior. The closed eye decides Jihan is no longer a random adventurer. He reports that Jihan ruined the quarry operation and interfered with the slave market chain. He also reports that Jihan now has merchant guild backing and a strange new product. The superior taps a black token against the table. The superior explains that the slave market, monster bait, and road attacks are connected. The superior orders someone to investigate his origin. The closed eye profits from fear, illegal labor, and controlled supply routes. Jihan has disrupted 2 pieces of that network in 2 days. That makes him a problem. At the Adventurer Guild Tavern, Rod hears rumors about Jihan's Warrior Guild reward. Rod listens despite knowing the conversation feels dangerous. Other copper ranks say Jihan may receive early iron rank evaluation. Rod grips his mug tightly, jealousy burning behind his smile. A hooded stranger sits beside him and mentions Jihan's sudden wealth. The hooded stranger says people like Jihan steal opportunities from ordinary adventurers. Rod unknowingly steps closer to being used. Rod says he only wants proof that Jihan is cheating somehow. The stranger offers information about where Jihan will be working soon. A closed-eye token flashes briefly under the stranger's glove. Jihan and Miral inspect small rental spaces near the South Market. They find a small but clean backstreet office with storage space. Most are dirty, cramped, or overpriced. Miral carefully records rent, location, foot traffic, and owner reputation. Jihan realizes she is already organizing better than most trained clerks. The office is plain, with wooden floors, a front room, and a locked storage area. Jihan says this will be the beginning of his company. It is not impressive, but it has access to the market, merchant guild, and main road. Jihan rents it for 1 month under his name. Miral writes the first expense into the ledger. Inside the empty office, Jihan places 1 Lumisote bottle on the front desk. Miral writes Aurelius House on the first page of the company ledger. Miral asks what the business will be called. Jihan thinks of his lost dream on Earth and the new world in front of him. He says the name slowly, Aurelius House. That night, Jihan walks Miral safely to her rented room at the Moonlit Kettle. A note tied to the arrow reads, "Close your eyes, or lose everything." As they pass a quiet street, his enhanced senses detect movement on the rooftops. Jihan stands in the quiet street with the black arrow caught between his fingers. His enhanced senses lock onto movement on a nearby rooftop. Miral freezes beside him, clutching the Aurelius House ledger to her chest. The note tied to the arrow reads, "Close your eyes, or lose everything." Jihan's expression turns cold, but not afraid. A masked attacker leaps from the rooftop and runs across the tiles. Jihan closes the distance with frightening speed. Jihan tells Miral to stay behind him, then launches himself toward a nearby wall. He uses a small portal step to reach the roof faster than a normal person could. The masked attacker glances back in panic. The attacker throws a smoke pellet onto the rooftop. A city guard whistle sounds from below. Black smoke spreads between chimneys and laundry lines. Jihan slashes through the smoke, but the attacker drops into a crowded night market. By the time Jihan reaches the edge, the figure has vanished among dozens of cloaks. A young city guard with sandy hair and tired eyes runs into the street. Dane says this is not the first intimidation attack in the South Market. He introduces himself as Dane Holt of the Varen Night Patrol. Dane sees the black arrow, the threatening note, and the shaken mural. His casual face becomes serious. Dane escorts Jihan and Mural to a small guard post near the market. He warns Jihan that someone paid to frighten him, not kill him yet. The post is crowded with reports, broken signs, stolen goods, and exhausted guards. An older guard captain named Brask studies the black arrow carefully. Brask recognizes the arrowhead style as one used by hired alley shooters. Jihan asks why the attacker aimed for the ledger instead of Mural's body. Jihan says that means the business is already valuable. Brask says destroying records is a common warning against new businesses. Dane adds that small merchants often quit after threats because legal protection is slow. Mural realizes Aurelia's house has enemies before it has even opened. Back at the moonlit kettle, Mural sits silently with the ledger in front of her. Mural lowers her head, hiding relief. Her fingers remain tense from almost losing the first company records. She quietly asks if Jihan regrets hiring someone with connections to the slave market. Jihan answers that the threat came because of their future, not her past. Jihan opens his notebook and creates a protection plan. Aurelia's house gains its first security system. He lists office locks, duplicate ledgers, hidden storage, guard contacts, and guild notification channels. Mural suggests coded inventory numbers so thieves cannot understand records even if stolen. Jihan looks impressed and adds it immediately. Mural carefully copies the company ledger by candlelight. Jihan decides the office will open tomorrow despite the threat. Jihan stores one copy inside his normal inventory. The second copy goes into the infinite space portal mini workroom. No thief in Varen can reach the true records now. The next morning, sunlight falls over the small backstreet office. Aurelia's house begins its first official day. The wooden sign is still blank, but the room has been cleaned. Mural arranges the desk, ledger, price sheets, and sample bottles. Jihan places one premium Lumisilk bottle in the center like a symbol. A cheerful sign painter named Pip arrives with brushes, paint, and a small ladder. Pip grins and says he loves difficult customers. Pip is short, quick-talking, and covered in colorful paint stains. He asks if Aurelia's house wants a noble-style sign or a market-style sign. Jihan says he wants something clean, memorable, and impossible to confuse. Jihan sketches a simple golden sun circle symbol with elegant letters. Jihan replies, that is why most signs look the same. Pip expects complicated decorations, but Jihan removes anything unnecessary. Mural watches as Jihan explains that simple marks are easier to remember. Pip says most merchants want more detail, not less. By midday, the sign is mounted above the office door. The first curious visitor steps toward the door. Aurelia's house shines in clean letters with a small golden emblem. Several passing customers stop because the sign looks different from nearby shops. Pip folds his arms proudly and says it may be his best work. The visitor is an older herbalist named Nella, carrying baskets of lavender, moonleaf, and mintroot. Nella realizes this young business is more organized than expected. Nella says Clara from the Merchant Guild mentioned Jihan might need fragrance ingredients. Jihan welcomes her inside and examines the herbs carefully. Miral records each herb name, scent, price, and shelf life. Nella offers standard market prices for fragrance herbs. Nella smiles and says she likes customers who think beyond one sale. Jihan asks about consistent supply, seasonal shortages, storage risks, and quality grades. Nella raises an eyebrow because most young merchants only ask for cheaper prices. Jihan proposes a stable monthly purchase contract if quality remains consistent. Miral prepares a simple supplier agreement. Aurelius House gains its first official supplier. Nella reads it slowly, surprised by the fair wording. The contract protects both sides instead of trapping the weaker party. Nella signs and gives Jihan a small discount for long-term trust. A large blacksmith named Brahm arrives next, carrying metal tools and shelf brackets. Jihan asks for something strong enough to annoy professional criminals. He has thick arms, a scarred chin, and a laugh that shakes the room. Jihan hired him to strengthen the office locks and storage door. Brahm studies the cheap existing lock and calls it an invitation to thieves. Brahm installs a reinforced lock and iron support plates. Jihan tells him interesting businesses pay on time. He adds a hidden latch under the counter for emergency sealing. Miral records the cost while watching the door become safer. Brahm says a business that gets threatened before opening must be interesting. A gentle priestess named Eloan visits from a nearby healer house. Jihan realizes Lumisilk may have medical and hygiene value beyond beauty. She heard rumors of a new cleansing product and wants to know if it irritates injured skin. Jihan gives her a controlled sample of the lower-strength formula. Eloan says clean skin matters for healing, especially among workers and children. Eloan asks whether common people will be able to afford the product. Eloan offers to test the product safely through the healer house. Jihan explains the smaller daily-use bottle strategy. Miral adds that Aurelius House will not weaken quality to cheat poor customers. Eloan smiles warmly at Miral's firm tone. A young mage named Felix arrives wearing oversized blue robes and cracked glasses. He asks whether the bottle seal is made by magic or craftsmanship. He works as a junior magical tool inspector for the Mage Guild. Clara sent him to verify that Lumisilk does not contain unstable alchemy. Felix looks nervous but extremely curious. Jihan allows Felix to inspect the finished product but not the production process. Jihan gains a clean safety note from a Mage Guild inspector. Felix tests scent stability, mana residue, liquid separation, and container safety. The results show almost no harmful residue. Felix becomes fascinated because most alchemy products are far messier. By afternoon, the small office feels alive with movement. Aurelius House begins forming its first ecosystem. Miral organizes supplier notes, safety notes, lock receipts, and sample records. Jihan sees Nella, Brahm, Eloan, Felix, Pip, Dane, Clara, and Orlan all becoming part of his growing network. He understands that a company is not built by product alone, but by trusted people. Clara arrives carrying a sealed letter with the Merchant Guild stamp. Jihan accepts the invitation anyway. The letter invites Jihan to a private noble demonstration that evening. 3 noble households will attend, including Lady Seraphina Valion and Lord Cashendrake. Miral's expression tightens because noble rooms can be more dangerous than monster forests. Jihan changes into his best coat and polishes his boots. Clara warns him not to underestimate noble pride. Miral prepares sample bottles, price notes, and the founder's batch numbering list. Clara explains noble etiquette, seating order, and dangerous compliments. Jihan listens carefully but smiles like he is preparing for a luxury brand launch. The demonstration takes place in a private salon inside the Merchant Guild. The nobles turn their attention toward him. Soft magic lamps, velvet chairs, and guarded doors create an atmosphere of quiet wealth. Master Orlan stands near the back, watching like a stage manager. Clara introduces Jihan as the founder of Aurelius House. Lady Serafina Valion sits at the center of the room with silver blonde hair and emerald jewelry. Serafina smiles, amused instead of offended. She is graceful, elegant, and clearly used to controlling conversations. She asks if Jihan truly created Lumisilk or merely discovered an old alchemy recipe. Jihan bows politely and says innovation often looks like magic to those seeing it for the first time. Lord Cashin Drake leans against a window with bored crimson eyes. Cashin laughs quietly and becomes interested. He is young, handsome, and dressed like someone who enjoys being underestimated. He asks whether a copper rank adventurer should be trusted with noble luxury goods. Jihan answers that rank measures guild history, not future value. Jihan demonstrates Lumisilk using a silver basin and warm water. She asks how many bottles exist in the first batch. The fragrance spreads gently through the salon without overpowering the room. Noble attendants test the product on silk cloth and report the smooth texture. Lady Serafina's eyes sharpen with desire. Myrrel steps forward and explains the founder's batch numbering system. Lord Cashin asks to reserve number 13. Only 500 premium bottles will exist in the first release. Each bottle will carry a unique number and Aurelius housemark. The nobles immediately understand the value of exclusivity. Lady Serafina requests number 1. Jihan realizes scarcity has worked even faster than expected. Another noble attendant says her household will pay extra for number 7. The room shifts from polite curiosity to quiet competition. Orlan hides a satisfied smile behind his wine glass. The salon door opens, and a thin merchant with oily black hair enters without warmth. Myrrel recognizes the look of a merchant preparing sabotage. Clara quietly identifies him as Gavel Thorn, owner of Thorn & Company. Bath Oils. Gavel says he came to welcome the new competitor. His smile carries no welcome at all. Gavel claims new products can hide dangerous alchemy. Jihan's preparation blocks Gavel's first attack. Felix, the Mage Guild inspector, nervously steps forward with the safety note. Gavel's smile stiffens when the inspection document is presented publicly. Eloan's Healer House sample approval is also mentioned. Jihan thanks Gavel for caring about customer safety. Lady Serafina laughs softly behind her fan. Then he offers to let Thorn & Company submit its own products for the same public inspection standard. The room goes quiet because everyone knows many old bath oils would fail strict testing. Gavel's face darkens for 1 second. The noble demonstration ends with multiple reservation requests. Outside, Gavel meets a hooded closed-eye messenger. Clara records early orders while Myrrel manages bottle numbers. Orlan tells Jihan that Aurelius House has officially entered noble society. Gavel leaves the salon with hatred hidden behind a polite bow. In a dark side corridor, Gavel receives a black token from the messenger. That night, a crate of fake poison Lumisilk bottles is prepared in an underground workshop. The messenger says Jihan has become a shared problem. Gavel says ruining a Deep beneath Verun's South Market, a hidden workshop burns with dim green lamps. Gavel says the city will blame Jihan by sunrise. Workers wearing cloth masks fill cheap glass bottles with cloudy liquid. Each bottle is marked with a crude copy of the Aurelius House emblem. A closed-eye messenger watches from the shadows while Gavel Thorn inspects the fake batch. Gavel opens one fake bottle and sniffs the harsh scent. The fake bottles are packed into crates for delivery. The liquid is not Lumisilk, but a cheap bath oil mixed with irritating alchemy powder. The closed-eye messenger says it will cause rashes, swelling, and panic, but not immediate death. Gavel smiles and says fear ruins a new brand faster than murder. A thin smuggler named Vin Locke enters the underground workshop. Vin realizes this job is more dangerous than normal smuggling. He has quick hands, nervous eyes, and a scar across his lower lip. Gavel orders him to deliver the fake bottles to small vendors before dawn. Vin accepts the money, but his hands shake when he sees the closed-eye token. Jihan arrives at the Aurelius house office before sunrise. Dane Holt knocks urgently on the office door. Myrrell is already inside, sorting yesterday's Noble reservations and supplier notes. The room smells faintly of herbs, clean wood, and the sample Lumisilk bottle on the desk. For one quiet moment, the company feels peaceful. Dane enters with a serious expression and a folded report in his hand. Jihan and Myrrell immediately exchange a sharp look. He says the night patrol found strange movement near the South Market. 2 vendors were seen carrying crates before legal market hours. The crates had markings similar to Aurelius' house. Myrrell opens the company ledger and checks every official batch number. Jihan tells Dane they need to move before the market opens. Only the founder's batch premium bottles exist under their seal. No common version has been released yet. Any Aurelius house bottle outside Merchant Guild storage must be fake. At the South Market, morning crowds begin gathering around small street stalls. Jihan arrives just as the first customer reaches for one. A vendor shouts that he has obtained rare Aurelius house cleanser at a discount. Curious commoners crowd closer, excited to buy a noble product cheaply. Several fake bottles sit openly on the stall. Jihan catches the customer's wrist gently before she can open the fake bottle. The vendor's face turns pale. The vendor angrily asks who he thinks he is. Jihan holds up his Merchant Guild registration token and introduces himself as the founder of Aurelius house. The crowd immediately starts whispering. Myrrell places an authentic premium Lumisilk bottle beside the fake one. The fake bottle suddenly cracks and leaks cloudy liquid. The difference is obvious to trained eyes, but not to common customers. Jihan points out the wrong seal, cheap glass, uneven label, and missing batch number. The crowd begins realizing someone tried to trick them. A young delivery girl named Sora Finch accidentally touches the leaked liquid. Sora starts crying from the burning pain. Her hand turns red almost immediately. The crowd panics, shouting that Aurelius house products are dangerous. Jihan's expression hardens as the sabotage begins exactly as planned. Eloan rushes through the market after hearing the commotion. Her public statement slows the panic. She uses a soft healing prayer to calm the irritation. After examining the bottle, she says loudly that this is not the tested Lumisilk sample. A strict-looking healer named Dr. Cairn arrives from the Veyron Public Clinic. Dr. Cairn declares the product was deliberately contaminated. He wears round glasses, a dark medical coat, and a permanent frown. He tests the leaked liquid with a small reagent crystal. The crystal turns purple, revealing artificial irritation powder. A stern female city guard captain named Marwan arrives with armored patrol officers. Jihan respects her discipline immediately. Dane quickly reports the fake stall, the suspicious crates, and the earlier arrow threat. Captain Marwan orders the market closed around the affected area. She tells everyone that panic will only help the criminals. Clara arrives breathless with Felix and several Merchant Guild clerks. This is now fraud against both Jihan and the Merchant Guild. Felix carries his Mage Guild inspection tools in both arms. Clara looks furious when she sees the forged Aurelius House bottles. She says the Merchant Guild seal was also copied badly on the crate papers. Felix tests the fake bottle against the authentic sample. The public begins shifting from suspicion toward anger at the counterfeiters. The authentic Lumisilk shows stable, clean residue. The fake bottle shows unstable alchemy powder, sheep oil, and scent masking herbs. Felix announces the results clearly in front of the crowd. Muriel opens the Foundry Euro S batch list. The crowd realizes her system protected them. She explains that every official premium bottle has a unique number and matching ledger entry. The fake bottles have no valid number, no proper seal, and no legal distribution record. Her voice trembles at first, then becomes stronger as people listen. Gavel Thorn arrives dramatically, pretending concern. Jihan asks why Gavel arrived so quickly. He says this disaster proves new products should not enter the market too quickly. Several merchants behind him nod, hoping Aurelius House collapses. Jihan watches Gavel's performance with cold amusement. Gavel says any responsible merchant would come after hearing danger in the market. The crowd begins murmuring against Gavel. Jihan agrees and asks whether Thorn and Company would also submit its bath oils for public inspection today. Gavel's smile stiffens. Dr. Karen and Felix both look toward him with professional interest. Clara steps beside Jihan with Merchant Guild authority. Gavel is trapped by the situation he tried to create. She says counterfeit products threaten guild law, consumer safety, and legal trade. She publicly requests all involved bath product merchants submit safety samples. Refusal would look suspicious after such a public incident. Sarah Finch, still holding her treated hand, speaks up nervously. The vendor tries to run. She says the vendor told people the cheap bottles came from a special hidden Aurelius House sale. Muriel immediately says Aurelius House has authorized no street vendors. Captain Marwan orders the fake vendor arrested for questioning. The vendor bolts into a side alley. The vendor drops a payment coin stamped with Thorn and Company as storage mark. Dane chases him through stacked crates and hanging cloth. Jihan opens a small portal step to block the alley exit without revealing too much. Dane tackles the vendor as he turns the corner. Captain Marwan examines the marked coin. The vendor shakes in fear and glances toward Gavel. Gavel says many coins pass through his company and denies responsibility. Jihan does not argue. He quietly asks the vendor where the crates came from. The vendor refuses to speak after seeing a black closed-eye mark burned into the crate bottom. The case becomes bigger than simple merchant sabotage. Captain Marwan recognizes the symbol from restricted guard reports. Dane looks at Jihan, remembering the previous threat arrow. The crowd does not know the full meaning, but feels the tension change. A young newsletter writer named Talia Reed pushes through the crowd with ink-stained fingers. Jihan steps forward and turns the crisis into a stage. She works for the Varen Morning Sheet, a small public news board near the plaza. Talia asks if Aurelius House has an official statement. Muriel worries that one wrong answer could destroy them. Jihan thanks the guards, healers, Mage Guild, Merchant Guild, and citizens for reacting quickly. Talia writes furiously, impressed by his calm. He states clearly that the injured customer was harmed by a counterfeit product. He promises that Aurelius House will use visible batch numbers, authorized sellers, and public safety verification. He also offers free treatment compensation to anyone affected by the fake batch. Jihan asks Eloan and Dr. Karen to supervise a public safety demonstration. Citizens begin asking when the real common version will be sold. Felix repeats the test on authentic Lumisilk in front of everyone. The product passes again. Mural shows how customers can identify genuine bottles. Sora approaches Jihan after her hand stops hurting. Jihan offers her paid messenger work if she wants honest employment. She apologizes even though she did nothing wrong. Jihan tells her the fault belongs to the criminals, not the customer. Sora says she works as a delivery runner and knows every alley in the South Market. Sora's eyes widen at the offer. Aurelia's house gains its first messenger. Mural writes a small trial messenger contract. Dane confirms Sora is quick, reliable, and known by the patrol. Sora accepts with a bright smile despite the bandage on her hand. A noble carriage stops near the market after hearing the public commotion. Jihan recognizes an unexpected opportunity. An elegant older noblewoman named Baroness Evelyn Rosemont steps out. She says Lady Seraphina sent her to inspect the rumors personally. The crowd parts because her family controls several luxury inns. Baroness Evelyn asks why she should trust Aurelia's house after a counterfeit incident. Baroness Evelyn says their response was better than many older merchant houses. Jihan explains that a product worth copying proves demand, but a company worth trusting proves survival. He shows the batch system, safety tests, and compensation plan. Mural presents the records with calm precision. Several workers ask whether the affordable bottle will be safe for families. The fake product incident creates demand for the real common product. Eloan says she will help supervise the first public use trial. Dr. Cairn says he will inspect samples if Aurelia's house submits them properly. Jihan agrees in front of everyone. Gavel leaves the market with a stiff smile. The messenger says the master is displeased. His attempt to poison the brand has failed publicly. Worse, he is now pressured to submit his own products for inspection. A closed-eye messenger waits for him at the end of a narrow street. Inside the Merchant Guild, Orlan hears Clara's full report. He orders Merchant Guild protection around official Lumisilk storage. He laughs in disbelief at how Jihan turns sabotage into publicity. Clara says Aurelia's house will become famous by tomorrow morning. Orlan says fame is useful, but enemies will now strike harder. Jihan, Mural, Sora, Clara, Felix, Eloan, Dane, and Nella gather briefly inside the office. He thanks everyone for helping protect the brand. The office is small, crowded, and full of exhausted people. Mural places a fresh page into the company ledger titled, Counterfeit Incident Response. Jihan looks around and realizes Aurelia's house is no longer just himself. After everyone leaves, Mural sits quietly at the desk. The closed-eye mark on the crate begins glowing faintly. She says today's victory was real, but the closed eye will not forgive public humiliation. Jihan agrees and places the black arrow beside the fake bottle sample. He says businesses and battles are similar. The first enemy teaches the market who you are. In the underground hideout, Gavel kneels before a tall masked figure. Varric orders the next plan: destroy Aurelia's house from inside. The figure is introduced by whispers as Lord Varric Noct, one of the Closed Eye's hidden masters. Varric studies reports about Jihan. In the underground chamber of the Closed Eye, Lord Varric Noct studies the failed poison report. Varric gives a new order: destroy the company from inside. Gavel Thorn stands nearby, pale and furious after his public humiliation. Varric says outside attacks only made Aurelia's house more famous. His gloved finger taps Jihan's name on the report. A slim young man steps from the darkness and kneels before Varric. Tovin accepts and asks what to do if the formula cannot be found. His name is Tovin Gray, a professional infiltrator trained in false identities and document theft. Tovin smiles easily, the kind of smile that makes people believe he is harmless. Varric orders him to enter Aurelia's house as a worker and steal the product formula. Varric's mask tilts slightly toward Tovin. The closed eye begins its first internal attack. He says if the formula cannot be stolen, then the workers must be turned against Jihan. Gavel adds that ruining trust is cheaper than burning buildings. Tovin pockets a forged recommendation letter. The next morning, Veyron's public news board is surrounded by citizens. The failed sabotage becomes the best advertisement Aurelia's house never paid for. Talia Reid's article describes the counterfeit Lumisilk incident in sharp detail. The headline praises Aurelia's house for exposing fraud and protecting customers. People read aloud, spreading Jihan's name across the city. A line forms outside the small Aurelia's house office before opening time. He says they need staff immediately. Workers, noble servants, innkeepers, and curious customers gather to ask about the real product. Miral opens the curtain and freezes at the size of the crowd. Jihan arrives behind her with calm eyes and a fresh notebook. Inside the office, Jihan, Miral, Sora, and Clara gather around the desk. Jihan writes the title, Aurelia's House Hiring Rules. The company has demand, product attention, and guild protection, but almost no manpower. Miral says one ledger keeper and one messenger cannot manage public demand. Clara recommends hiring carefully before the crowd becomes chaos. Jihan explains that skills can be trained, but character is harder to fix. Jihan says anyone can apply if they accept discipline and fair rules. He wants honest workers, fast learners, and people ignored by the old merchant houses. Miral quietly understands that he is building opportunity for people like her. Sora raises her hand and asks if street runners can apply too. Pip paints a temporary hiring notice outside the office. Some desperate workers begin lining up immediately. The notice says Aurelia's house seeks clerks, packers, runners, guards, and cleaning assistants. It promises fair wages, written contracts, meal support, and no illegal binding. The crowd reacts strongly to the phrase written contracts. The first applicant is Old Hask, a former warehouse clerk with a bent back and ink-stained fingers. Jihan hires him as a part-time inventory checker. He says most merchants refuse him because he moves slowly. Miral gives him a sample counting task. Old Hask completes it perfectly and even catches a hidden arithmetic mistake. The next applicant is Rhea Sunfall, a tall red-haired woman wearing worn armor. Celine arrives just in time to test Rhea's combat ability. She is a former caravan guard with a cracked shield and direct eyes. Rhea says she lost her last job after refusing to abandon a wounded merchant during a bandit attack. Jihan immediately respects the answer. Celine and Rhea face each other in the alley behind the office with wooden practice blades. Jihan hires Rhea as Aurelia's house's first guard captain. Rhea is not as fast as Celine, but her defense is strong and stable. She protects the imaginary doorway behind her without moving from position. Celine nods and says Rhea is perfect for office security. A shy young woman in faded mage robes approaches the desk next. Jihan asks Leora to identify 3 ingredient samples by scent and texture. She introduces herself as Leora Ashbell, a failed apprentice from a minor alchemy workshop. She says she was dismissed because she asked too many questions and refused unsafe mixtures. Felix, who came to deliver inspection papers, recognizes her as a careful student. Leora studies lavender, moonleaf, mint root, and a bitter scent masking herb. Leora is hired as a safety assistant under external inspection rules. She identifies each one correctly. Then she warns that the bitter herb was used in the fake poison bottles. Jihan and Miral exchange a serious look. Tovin Gray enters the office dressed as a polite young clerk. Jihan watches Tovin's breathing, posture, and eyes. He introduces himself as Tovin Hale and presents a recommendation letter from a small storage company. His handwriting sample is neat, and his speech is modest. Miral takes the letter and studies the seal closely. Tovin answers every question well. Jihan smiles and says Tovin can join as a temporary clerk. He claims experience in copying contracts, arranging shelves, and customer service. Old Hask says the handwriting is excellent. Clara says the recommendation seal appears real at first glance. Miral waits until Tovin leaves the room. They decide to hire him anyway and watch him. She quietly tells Jihan the recommendation letter is too perfect. The ink, seal angle, and wording all look copied from a template. Jihan says he noticed Tovin looked at exits before he looked at the desk. Jihan gathers the new team inside the office. Tovin smiles politely while memorizing the security layout. Present are Miral, Sora, Old Hask, Ria, Leora, Tovin, Pip, and Nella. Jihan explains the first Aurelius house rules: no cheating customers, no stolen goods, no hidden contracts, no formula access without approval. He says anyone who breaks trust will be removed immediately. Miral hands each worker a simple employment contract. Aurelius House becomes more than a product company. Some workers stare at the paper like it is a noble treasure. The contracts include wages, duties, rest time, confidentiality, and the right to leave. Old Hask sighs water because he has never been given terms this fair. Jihan teaches the staff how to greet customers, explain batch numbers, and identify fake bottles. The office starts functioning like a real organization. Miral teaches ledger marks, delivery notes, and stock recording. Leora teaches safe handling of herbs and warning signs of contamination. Ria teaches emergency positions if the office is attacked. That night, Jihan enters the infinite space portal mini workroom alone. He decides no employee will see the true production source yet. The room has expanded slightly after his mana growth. A small production table, storage shelf, and bottle shaping station now float in the blue space. Jihan creates the first batch of smaller daily-use Lumisilk bottles. The new bottle is simpler than the premium version. Jihan stores the first common batch inside his inventory. It uses less fragrance, smaller volume, and plain but clean packaging. The quality remains safe and pleasant, but without noble-level luxury. The system confirms daily production capacity, 500 small common bottles. The next morning, a polished banker named Marek Valen visits from the Veyron coin exchange. Marek offers to open an official Aurelius House business account. He wears a navy coat, gold spectacles, and a smile trained by years of handling rich clients. Marek says Master Orlan recommended him for secure storage and business account services. Jihan understands that real money now requires real financial structure. Marek explains vault deposits, payment notes, merchant letters, and insured coin transfers. Jihan opens a limited account but refuses unnecessary credit. Miral listens carefully while comparing costs and risks. Jihan asks about fraud claims, debt traps, and hidden service fees. Marek laughs and says most new merchants never ask the dangerous questions. A young noble girl arrives quietly with 2 guards. Jihan allows her to observe as long as she follows staff rules. She introduces herself as Iona Crest, Master Orlan's niece and a student of trade etiquette. Orlan sent her to observe how Aurelius House handles common customers. Iona looks elegant but curious rather than arrogant. A small sign announces the first limited sale of daily-use Lumisilk bottles. The first common bottle sells within seconds. The price is affordable enough for workers, servants, and small families to try. Sora organizes the customer line while Ria keeps the crowd orderly. Miral checks each sale against the batch ledger. A laundry worker tests a small amount on rough cloth and smiles at the gentle scent. Aurelius House sells 100 bottles before midday. A mother buys 1 bottle for her children after Eloan confirms the safety test. A young assistant buys 3 bottles for guest rooms. People begin calling it the clean blue bottle. While the crowd distracts everyone, Tovin slips into the back storage room. Ria's shadow appears in the doorway behind him. He looks for ingredient lists, production notes, or hidden formula papers. Instead, he finds only decoy records written in Mural's coded inventory system. His smile fades. Ria asks why Tovin is in restricted storage. Ria reports the incident to Mural. Tovin quickly says he was looking for more packing twine. Ria points out that packing supplies are in the front cabinet. Tovin apologizes smoothly and returns to the sales floor. Jihan listens to Ria and Mural's report after closing. The fake formula is placed in a locked but tempting drawer. Instead of firing Tovin immediately, he prepares a controlled trap. He creates a false formula document with believable but useless information. Mural adds coded errors that will identify whoever steals it. Late at night, Tovin enters the office using a copied key. Blue light marks Tovin's glove. He moves silently past the front desk and toward the back room. He opens the tempting drawer and finds the false formula. A tiny marking rune hidden under the paper activates. Tovin turns to leave but finds Jihan sitting calmly in the dark office. Tovin drops the harmless smile. Mural stands beside him with the real ledger in her arms. Ria blocks the door while Celine waits near the window. Jihan asks if Tovin prefers to confess as a thief or as a spy. Tovin draws a hidden dagger and rushes toward Mural. Tovin realizes Jihan expected everything. Jihan opens a small portal that swallows the dagger mid-thrust. Celine disarms Tovin from the side. Ria slams him to the floor and pins him down. Dane and Captain Marwan arrive after receiving Sora's emergency message. The inside attack is officially connected to the closed eye. The blue marking rune proves Tovin stole the fake formula document. Mural reveals the recommendation letter was forged. Celine finds a hidden closed-eye token sewn into Tovin's collar. Before being taken away, Tovin laughs bitterly. Tovin's smile disappears. He says the closed eye has people inside markets, guilds, noble houses, and guard offices. He tells Jihan that catching one spy changes nothing. Jihan answers that catching one spy teaches him how the next will move. The next morning, Jihan tells the staff what happened. Aurelius' house survives its first internal attack. He does not hide the danger, but he also does not ask anyone to stay blindly. Old Hask, Leora, Sora, Ria, and Mural all choose to remain. Iona watches silently, surprised by the loyalty of common workers. Arya arrives at the office with an Adventurer Guild notice. As his business rises and his adventurer rank advances, Lord Varric Nacht prepares to strike both worlds at once. Jihan's early iron rank evaluation has been scheduled for the next day. At the same time, Clara brings news that morning light falls across the Aurelius house office desk. Jihan smiles and says both success paths are now moving at the same time. Two official notices lie side by side, one from the Adventurer Guild and one from the Merchant Guild. The first announces Jihan's early iron rank evaluation. The second confirms that Lumisilk demand has doubled across Veyron. Mural studies the notices with a serious expression. Jihan decides to prepare for the evaluation and business defense together. She says success is useful, but rising too fast makes enemies act faster. Ria agrees and reminds Jihan that Tovin was only the first knife. Sara peeks through the office window and reports strangers watching the street. Jihan gathers Mural, Ria, Leora, Sora, Old Hask, and Nella inside the office. Aurelius' house begins operating like a real battle formation. He assigns Mural to supervise the ledger and customer orders. Ria will protect the office, while Sora carries urgent messages between guilds. Leora will monitor product safety so no one can repeat the fake poison trick. Clara arrives with two Merchant Guild clerks carrying sealed order folders. Neural quietly adds Iona to the office visitor log. She says Master Orlan has placed official guild witnesses near Lumasilk storage. Iona Crest follows behind, holding a small etiquette notebook. She says Orlan also wants her to learn crisis management from Aurelius' house. Jihan arrives at the Adventurer Guild wearing his copper rank badge. Arya calls Jihan to the evaluation desk. The hall becomes quiet faster than usual. Rumors about the Bloodtusk Boar, the Closed-Eye Spy, and Lumasilk have already spread. Rod watches from a corner table with dark jealousy in his eyes. An older adventurer with a gray beard and one missing eye stands beside Arya. Jihan replies that monsters usually do not check faces before dying. Arya introduces him as Master Harlan Rowe, senior examiner of the Varun Adventurer Guild. Harlan's armor is old, scarred, and covered with marks from many monster battles. He looks at Jihan and says pretty faces do not impress monsters. Harlan explains that early Iron Rank evaluation has 3 parts. Harlan warns that failing by arrogance will delay Jihan's promotion for months. First is combat control. Second is field judgment. Third is a supervised monster suppression quest outside the city. A quiet young swordsman steps into the evaluation hall. The first test begins. He has dark blue hair, narrow eyes, and a clean Iron Rank badge. Harlan introduces him as Kale Voss, Jihan's combat test opponent. Kale bows politely, but his gaze is sharp and unreadable. Jihan and Kale stand inside a marked sparring circle. Jihan blocks and immediately feels the difference between street fighters and trained guild swordsmen. They both use practice swords, but the tension feels real. Harlan says the goal is not victory, but control, awareness, and restraint. Kale attacks first with clean, disciplined movement. Kale's strikes are not flashy, but every movement controls space. Harlan narrows his one eye with interest. He forces Jihan backward step by step. Jihan reads the rhythm and adjusts his footwork. The watching adventurers grow silent as the duel becomes technical. Jihan stops trying to overpower Kale. Harlan raises his hand and stops the duel. He uses smaller movements, redirecting strikes instead of blocking fully. Kale notices the adaptation and increases the speed. Jihan matches the timing just enough to survive without losing control. Kale lowers his practice sword and gives Jihan a respectful nod. The field judgment test begins immediately. Harlan says Jihan lacks formal polish, but his learning speed is abnormal. Rod clicks his tongue from the crowd. Arya marks the first test as passed. Jihan is brought to a table covered with maps, tokens, monster markers, and caravan models. Harlan starts the timer. Harlan presents several emergency scenarios. A caravan trapped by wolves, a missing child near ruins, a wounded teammate, and a possible ambush route. Jihan must decide priority, risk, and retreat timing. Jihan studies the map like a supply chain problem. Jihan passes the second test with unusual clarity. He identifies safe zones, choke points, water access, visibility, and likely monster movement. He refuses one heroic-looking option because it risks more lives for no gain. Harlan smiles faintly at the practical answer. The final test is announced as a monster suppression quest near Windfall Orchard. Rod quietly leaves the guild before the group departs. The orchard has been attacked by level 4 horned jackals. Kale and Harlan will supervise, while Jihan performs the main suppression. Arya records the mission as official Iron Rank evaluation material. In a side alley, Rod meets a hooded closed-eye agent. Rod accepts a small packet of monster bait with shaking hands. The agent says Jihan's evaluation route is easy to modify. Rod hesitates, sweating as jealousy fights common sense. The agent offers him a promotion opportunity if Jihan fails publicly. Jihan, Harlan, Kale, and 2 guild assistants leave Varun by the western gate. Harlan gives no praise, but his expression approves. The road passes wheat fields, low hills, and fruit farms. Harlan asks Jihan what he notices first. Jihan says the birds are too quiet near the orchard. Windfall Orchard is filled with rows of pale apple trees and broken fences. Tressa says the monster attacks became worse overnight. A farmer named Master Tressa Ven waits nervously near the gate. She introduces herself as Lyra Ven's aunt and owner of the orchard. Jihan recognizes the Ven family name and becomes more attentive. Jihan kneels beside claw marks near the fence. The evaluation has been tampered with. The marks match horned jackals, but the movement pattern is too aggressive. A bitter smell lingers near the soil. Jihan recognizes it from Celine's lesson, monster bait. Jihan quietly informs Harlan about the monster bait. A howl echoes from the tree rows. Harlan's face becomes grim. He says the test will continue, but now the priority is protecting civilians and identifying interference. Kale draws his sword and moves closer to the orchard workers. Several level 4 horned jackals rush from between the trees. More howls answer from deeper in the orchard. Their eyes are red from artificial aggression. Jihan moves first, placing himself between the monsters and the workers. He defeats the first jackal with a clean downward strike. The number of jackals grows from 6 to 12. He chooses a third option, controlled victory. Then nearly 20. Harlan curses because this is far beyond a normal iron rank test. Jihan realizes the goal is to make him either fail, flee, or expose his hidden portal power publicly. Jihan asks Tressa to move all workers into the storage barn. Jihan says good plans do not wait for rank. He tells Kale to guard the barn entrance. He asks Harlan to observe the north fence where the bait smell is strongest. Harlan laughs and asks if the examinee is giving orders now. Jihan breaks a wooden fence section and creates a narrow opening between 2 tree rows. His efficiency shocks the guild assistants. The jackals are forced to rush through one path. Kale watches as Jihan turns the orchard layout into a controlled battlefield. One by one, Jihan cuts down monsters entering the choke point. Harlan spots movement near the north fence. The hood falls back, revealing Rod. A small hooded figure is scattering more monster bait powder. The figure sees Harlan and tries to run. Harlan throws a blunt dagger that knocks the bait packet from the figure's hand. Rod freezes, pale and terrified. A deeper roar interrupts them. Harlan's one eye burns with anger. Rod stammers that he only wanted to scare Jihan, not endanger workers. Harlan says monster bait does not care about excuses. The remaining jackals scatter as a larger monster steps from the orchard shadows. The real danger has arrived. A red label appears, level 9 Razorhorn Alpha. Its body is scarred, its horn curved like a blade, and its eyes glow with bait-induced rage. Even Kale tightens his grip. A traveling healer named Brother Kale emerges from the storage barn. Jihan decides he cannot drag the fight out. He was visiting the orchard to treat injured workers before the attack began. He raises a protection prayer over the civilians. The barrier flickers weakly but gives them precious time. Jihan considers using Infinite Space Portal fully. The Razorhorn Alpha charges. But too many witnesses are present. Instead, he forms tiny hidden portals near his hands and feet, disguised as quick movement. His mana drains slowly but remains manageable. The Alpha's first charge tears through 3 trees. For the first time, Jihan and Kale fight together. Jihan uses a small portal shift to move his foot just outside the attack line. He cuts across the monster's flank but barely pierces the hide. Kale joins from the side, striking the creature's rear leg. Kale holds the Alpha's attention with precise defensive swordwork. The Alpha prepares a final horn charge toward the barn. Jihan attacks weak points created by Kale's positioning. Brother Kale keeps the civilian barrier alive despite sweating heavily. Harlan watches both the battle and Rod with cold authority. Jihan sees the monster's target and reacts instantly. Jihan retrieves his sword and delivers the finishing strike. He throws his sword through a tiny portal angle, changing the blade's path mid-air. The sword strikes the Alpha's eye and breaks its charge direction. Kale drives his blade into the exposed neck from the side. The Razorhorn Alpha collapses and dissolves into a large mana stone. Harlan declares Jihan has passed the Iron Rank evaluation. The orchard grows silent except for the frightened breathing of workers. Harlan walks toward Jihan slowly. He says the test became a sabotage incident, but Jihan protected civilians, adapted under pressure, and cooperated well. Rod is restrained by the guild assistants. Rod is taken back to Veyron for guild punishment and interrogation. He cries that the closed-eye agent tricked him. Harlan says jealousy opened the door, but Rod walked through it himself. Jihan looks at Rod without anger, only disappointment. At the Adventurer Guild that evening, Arya removes Jihan's copper rank badge. Jihan officially becomes an Iron Rank adventurer. She replaces it with a dark iron badge stamped with the guild emblem. The guild hall erupts into whispers as Jihan becomes Iron Rank faster than anyone expected. Kale quietly congratulates him and says they should spar again someday. While the guild celebrates, Sora rushes into the hall out of breath. In a noble carriage outside Veyron, Lord Varric smiles and says, "Now let us see if the boy can fight paperwork." She tells Jihan that Aurelia's house received a massive order from Baroness Evelyn's luxury inns. Before Jihan can smile, the Adventurer Guild hall buzzes with excitement after Jihan receives his Iron Rank badge. Jihan's smile becomes calm and dangerous. Some adventurers stare with respect, while others whisper that his rise is too fast. Sora arrives breathless, first announcing Baroness Evelyn's huge luxury in order. Before anyone can celebrate properly, Clara's urgent message follows: Aurelia's house faces an emergency royal tax audit. Arya reads the audit notice and frowns. He says, "Then we fight with paperwork." The notice claims Aurelia's house may be hiding production income, avoiding trade tax, and selling unregistered luxury goods. Harlan says a monster can be killed, but paperwork can strangle a business. Jihan folds the notice neatly instead of crushing it. Jihan rushes back to Aurelia's house with Sora leading the way. The company prepares for its first legal battle. Myrrel has already gathered the ledgers, contracts, invoices, inspection notes, and batch records. Rhea guards the door while Leora secures product samples. Old Hask double-checks inventory numbers with trembling but determined hands. Clara arrives from the Merchant Guild with 2 clerks and a sealed folder. Jihan realizes the closed eye has influence inside government offices. She says emergency audits rarely happen to new businesses unless someone powerful requests them. The timing proves this is not normal law enforcement. Myrrel quietly says Lord Varric may be using official channels. A black carriage stops outside the office. Silas says Aurelia's house will open every record immediately. A thin man in a gray official coat steps down, followed by 2 stern assistants. He introduces himself as Auditor Silas Wren from the Royal Tax Bureau. His eyes sweep over the small office with immediate suspicion. Silas demands production logs, supplier lists, formula records, customer accounts, and private storage access. Silas realizes the freed girl with the ledger is dangerous. Myrrel politely provides legal ledgers but refuses formula disclosure without a royal trade secrecy warrant. Silas's eyebrow twitches because he expected fear, not legal knowledge. Jihan stands behind Myrrel, letting her handle the first defense. Myrrel lays out 3 separate ledgers on the desk. Silas cannot find an easy opening. 1 records premium founders batch bottles, 1 records common bottle trials, and 1 records expenses. Every entry has date, amount, batch mark, witness, and related contract number. Old Hask quietly places matching inventory sheets beside them. Silas says proper records can still hide illegal production. The audit becomes harder than Silas expected. He asks where the products are manufactured. Jihan answers that production is protected under trade secrecy and registered through Merchant Guild confidentiality clauses. Clara places the signed Merchant Guild contract in front of Silas. Clara explains that the Merchant Guild witnessed the first batch purchase and tax estimate. He changes tactics and demands product safety records. The Guild has already recorded the 25 platinum coin transaction. All legal trade fees related to the first premium batch were prepared for payment. Silas flips through the documents with growing irritation. Leora presents ingredients safety notes under Felix's Mage Guild inspection. The safety accusation collapses quickly. Eloan's Healer House observation report is attached. Dr. Cairn's public clinic test confirms the counterfeit poison incident did not involve real Lumisilk. Felix arrives in person, nervously carrying his official inspection crystal. Silas leans forward and says royal authority outranks guild convenience. Jihan confirms the auditor expected intimidation to work. Ria's hand moves slightly toward her sword, but Jihan raises one finger to stop her. Jihan calmly asks which exact royal statute permits seizure of confidential formula documents without evidence. Silas pauses for half a second too long. Iona Crest watches from the corner, quietly taking notes. The office becomes a classroom in survival commerce. She whispers to Clara that Jihan handles an audit like a negotiation duel. Clara says this is why Master Orlan wants him protected. Myrrel hears them but keeps her focus on Silas. Outside Aurelia's house, customers gather after hearing about the audit. Gavel Thorn watches from a nearby carriage. Talia Reed arrives with ink and paper, ready to report the event. Dane Holt and Captain Marwan keep the crowd orderly. Some rival merchants whisper that Aurelia's house may be shut down by sunset. Inside the carriage, Gavel smiles while holding a copy of the audit notice. Gavel says Jihan's luck ends with tax law. He believes no small company can survive official pressure, public rumor, and noble suspicion at once. Beside him sits a silent closed-eye agent disguised as a clerk. The agent says Lord Varric expects results today. Silas finally presents a suspicious invoice allegedly connected to Aurelia's house. She says the document is fake. It claims Jihan sold 2,000 unregistered Lumisilk bottles through a third-party vendor. If true, the fine would destroy the company instantly. Myrrel examines the invoice and becomes very still. Silas asks whether Myrrel can prove forgery. Jihan asks where Silas obtained the invoice. Myrrel points out the batch code uses the wrong numbering structure. Old Hask adds that the inventory amount exceeds total production capacity reported to the Merchant Guild. Leora notes that the listed scent ingredient was never purchased by Aurelia's house. Silas refuses to reveal the informant. Silas notices the public report forming outside his control. Jihan says anonymous evidence can trigger an audit, but cannot justify punishment without verification. Clara confirms the Merchant Guild can challenge the invoice officially. Talia, listening from the doorway, writes every word. A luxurious carriage arrives at the crowded street. The audit becomes a noble spectacle. Lady Maribel Quen, a proud noblewoman famous for strict taste, steps out. She says she came because her household reserved several founders' batch bottles. If Aurelia's house is fraudulent, she wants to know before paying. Lady Maribel asks Jihan if he can guarantee the product's origin, quality, and legal trade status. Lady Maribel's expression shifts from doubt to interest. Jihan says yes, but words are not enough. He asks Myrrel to present the complete trace record for Lady Maribel's reserved bottle number. Myrrel opens the ledger to the exact page without hesitation. Myrrel explains the bottle number, storage date, Merchant Guild witness, safety test mark, and reservation entry. Lady Maribel says older merchant houses do not keep records this clean. Clara confirms the guild seal. Felix confirms the safety mark. Old Hask confirms inventory movement. The crowd outside hears Lady Maribel's comment. The audit attack starts transforming into a public trust event. Customers begin whispering that Aurelius House may be more trustworthy than established shops. Gavel's face darkens inside his carriage. Talia smiles as her article title forms in her mind. A royal security officer named Captain Odric Fane arrives with 2 armored officials. Silas's face loses color. Silas looks relieved, thinking reinforcements have come. Captain Odric says he is not here to help the audit. He is here to investigate forged documents entering royal channels. Captain Odric reveals that another false complaint reached the Royal Tax Bureau last month. Odric asks to examine the forged invoice. That complaint was connected to a merchant later exposed for smuggling. The seal pattern on the Aurelius House invoice matches the previous forgery style. Jihan immediately understands the closed eye has used this tactic before. A quiet royal scribe named Edrin Vale steps forward with a magnifying lens. Silas is no longer in control of his own audit. He studies the forged invoices' ink, pressure marks, seal residue, and paper cut. Edrin says the document was produced by someone with access to official templates. That means the source may be inside a legal office or noble accounting room. Jihan says Aurelius House will cooperate fully with a real investigation. Silas cannot refuse without looking corrupt. But he requests that all audit findings, forged documents, and safety records be publicly filed through the Merchant Guild. Clara supports the request immediately. Lady Maribel also agrees, saying noble customers deserve clarity. After hours of review, Silas has no valid evidence of tax fraud. The company survives the royal audit. He confirms that current sales records match reported batch quantity. He states stiffly that Aurelius House will remain under observation but faces no penalty today. Miro writes the official result into the ledger with steady hands. Talia Reid rushes to the public news board with fresh ink. Gavel tears a glove in rage. Her headline reads, "New Merchant House Survives Royal Audit, Exposes Forged Invoice." Citizens gather quickly to read the update. Aurelius House's reputation rises again because of an attack meant to destroy it. Captain Odric approaches Gavel's carriage before it can leave. Gavel realizes the pressure has turned toward him. He asks why Thorne & Company's storage mark appeared in the earlier counterfeit incident. Gavel says he already answered those questions. Odric replies that he is asking again under royal authority. As the crowd begins dispersing, a royal courier enters the street. Jihan breaks the seal. He carries a sealed letter marked with the crest of the Royal Academy of Applied Magic. The letter is addressed to Seo Jihan, founder of Aurelius House. Everyone in the office goes silent. The letter is from Professor Yulian of the Royal Academy. Jihan's product has reached academic attention. He writes that rumors of stable low-residue cleansing alchemy and unusual bottle consistency reached the capital. He requests permission to visit Veyron and observe Aurelius House's product safety methods. Felix nearly drops his inspection crystal in shock. A second small note is attached beneath the Academy letter. Clara whispers that royal attention can bless a business or burn it alive. It carries a delicate royal crest belonging to Princess Avelini. The note says the princess has heard of Founder's batch Lumisilk through Lady Seraphina's circle. She requests one official sample through proper Merchant Guild channels. That evening, the Aurelius House staff gathers inside the small office. He declares Aurelius House will expand beyond Veyron. Myril, Ria, Leora, Sora, Old Hask, Nella, Pip, Clara, Felix, Eloan, Dane, and Iona all stand together. The office is still small, but its name now reaches nobles, guilds, guards, healers, and even the capital. Jihan looks at the team and realizes his second life has truly begun. Jihan places his iron rank badge beside the Aurelius House ledger. Jihan decides to grow both paths at once. One symbol belongs to monster hunting. The other belongs to business creation. Together, they form the two engines of his rise in this world. In the closed-eye hideout, Lord Varric Noct receives news that the audit failed. Varric quietly crushes a black token in his hand. Gavel is now under investigation. Tovin is captured. Rod is useless, and the counterfeit plan has strengthened Jihan. A cloaked woman enters Varric's chamber and kneels. Varric says, from now on, he is an acquisition target. She reports that Jihan's spatial ability may be real. Varric says the boy's business is annoying, but the skill is priceless. He orders the closed eye to stop treating Jihan as a merchant problem. Late at night, Jihan stands on the roof of Aurelia's house and looks over Veyron. A new notification follows: Infinite Space Portal, second stage requirements unlocked. The city that once felt enormous now feels like the first branch of a much larger company. In the distance, royal roads lead toward the capital, merchant territories, monster zones, and noble courts. Jihan smiles as the system window appears. Seasonal milestone achieved, first enterprise established. Season 1 ending hook: Aurelia's house has survived monsters, poison, spies, jealousy, and royal paperwork. Jihan is now an iron rank adventurer, a rising merchant founder, and a secret target of the closed eye.